They're called Mr. Bombastic. Oh, sorry, I forgot we're live. Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day, everybody. What's up? This is AP with DW and all that. I hope we are live, and I hope everybody can hear us in the most appropriate way. Yes, I see us. Hey, David, how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Let me share this, and all right.
Okay, awesome.
I've shared it.
That's fantastic. I appreciate it. Thank you. What took us so long is I actually wanted to go live with David at right on time. I was ready, but I'm moving my office right now, and I noticed, wait a minute. I sat down here, I was about to start, and I noticed I only have a little tiny laptop screen. I normally have two screens in case I need to share things. And I noticed I don't actually have that here, and that would be kind of inconvenient. So I had to leave and get that. I don't know why I'm so disorganized with all that stuff, but nevertheless, we have made it. We are here today. And today we want to, with David together, talk about an issue of the Kaaba in the Bible, because yesterday, those of you who have been following have probably seen that yesterday I was on this channel to visit them on Hamza's Den, or the arena. I still don't know why they accepted me into the arena, but
I was actually, to be fair, I was actually impressed with that. You know what I mean?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was impressed that they kind of let you talk a bit at the beginning, and then at certain times let you speak. Because let's face it, there are lots of people in the Dawa arena who their goal is not to show that they're right or to hear you out. It's to show that they're strong and you're weak, and so they immediately just start shouting you down. And the goal is for their guys to see that they overpowered you, not that they refuted your points or anything. So it was actually cool that they actually listened to what your point was. And yeah, as for their responses to your point,
you were horrible.
We'll get into that, I'm sure.
To be fair, they let me into the arena because I kind of, a few days before that, I kind of pressured the guy Hamza into talking to me, because I went on his live stream in the middle of everybody, like on this Muslim live stream, nothing to do with discussions and debates, just appeared there randomly because I heard him talk about me before. And I said, hey, how about you and I have a discussion about things? And then he tried to ignore me, responded, and I pressured him into talking to me, said, hey, your knowledge of me is completely like baseless. Let's just talk. Let's see what happens. And I kind of pressured him into saying, okay, well, come and join the arena, and then we will see. You can bring your ridiculous arguments. And I thought, okay, let's do that. So
I saw part of one of his videos before. Why was I watching it? What was I watching? What was I watching that Hamza was on?
Probably Speaker's Corner. He is there.
He's a Speaker Corner guy?
I think he was.
Wait,
there.
Was the clip where Sheikh Uthman was asked about the tweet that said that that anyone who refused to pay jizya would be fought or enslaved if they refused, and their wives and children enslaved? Was that on Hamza?
I think that took place there.
I knew I saw him recently somewhere, but other than that, yeah, I didn't know anything about so I was impressed that he had you on at least.
Yeah, it was definitely there. I even remember them saying before that they don't want to have ex-Muslims on, but they took me. They thought they could do something great. They didn't. So we want to get into that today. Many people have seen that their argumentations were ridiculous. I basically went in there and challenged the entire notion that I basically asked them a question. I said, so the Islam has the Kaaba at its core, at its foundation, but the Quran also explains that it was Abraham and Ishmael who built the Kaaba, and they were supposed to tell the people from around the world to come to the Kaaba and to engage in worship to Allah. But so the Kaaba is supposed to be central to Abrahamic religion, as it seems by this narrative. So we would expect that the Kaaba also has this big relevance within Abrahamic religion and tradition, but seemingly it doesn't have this relevance. It doesn't even have a tiny little bit of importance. It's not even mentioned anywhere. It doesn't appear anywhere. Yeah. How can you explain this? I said. And then they began bringing these these vague Bible verses as evidence that it is mentioned there. And we'll get to that.
I just wanted to foreshadow a little problem that given his one of the guys, what was his name, Khalid, given how one of the guys was responding. I watched half of it, ladies and gentlemen. I watched half of it, but that was enough to get their main points. Given what he was arguing, your point is actually strengthened, right? Because so according to Islam, Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba. Now, ask different people when exactly this would have been. You'll get dates ranging from somewhere between 1800 BC and 2200 BC, right? Somewhere in there. Someone will say 2100, 2000, 1900. Someone's going to put it in there, right? So you're talking, let's say let's say 2000 BC, right? Khalid there was arguing that this was still a monotheistic center of worship during the time of David. Yeah. That would mean that it was for 1,000 years, this is a hub of monotheistic worship. So much so that King David would go there, right? Well, that just strengthened your point that you're talking about a place that is a monotheistic center of worship for 1,000 years. It seems like someone should mention it somewhere. I mean, just for a comparison, ladies and gentlemen, according to Jews and Christians, Jerusalem was, a center of monotheistic worship. Well, we have a lot of evidence for Jerusalem, right? We have a lot of evidence that Jerusalem was a center of monotheistic worship. We have a lot. There tons of people mention Jerusalem. There's all kinds of evidence for Jerusalem. You can't find Mecca anywhere unless you really do some gymnastics, which we're about to see. And so, not pretty. Yeah. So anyway, but anyway, I mean, notice if they had said Abraham and Ishmael came down, built it, and then they left, and it immediately turned to paganism, and it was never any sort of important place for monotheistic worship or anything like that, then you'd say, well, okay, what kind of evidence am I going to find of a monotheistic place of worship if it just didn't last at all? But if his claim is that it lasted at least about 1,000 years as a monotheistic center of worship. So this is exactly the sort of place we should be expecting to find some references to it, find it on some ancient maps, find references to it from other cultures. Because keep in mind, there are the Egyptians, and there are all these various groups, and we have writings from lots of people. We have ancient writings from lots of people. We don't find people mentioning Mecca. No one cared about the place. And so very, very strange stuff going on.
Yeah. So I want to get into it immediately. I want to jump right into it. What I want to do is, I don't want to watch the whole video. It's like I uploaded it on my channel in its entirety. It's about 58 minutes long. I want to show parts of it so that we can go through it and respond to it properly. And I have made notes of some important parts, some parts to give some little background, and some parts that I think, definitely need to respond to. One issue is, dear Muslim viewers who are here and who are watching, you will see today, number one, not only that these Muslim apologists yesterday are not only entirely ignorant about what they're talking about, but also liars, because they made very clear assertions about something that they have no clue about, very falsely, and twisted so many facts in very few minutes. And number two, I don't know why I'm counting like this, but and number two, you will also see that there is a huge discrepancy in Islam's entire narrative, and it's in Islam's very foundation, the Kaaba, which is directly mentioned within the Quran, and which is also directly a part of Islam's 5 pillars. So let's start getting into that, and we will hopefully come see here what happened yesterday, how horrible that was. Now, here is the stream. Now, at the beginning, I came in. They kind of welcomed me in a sarcastic way, saying that they will kind of basically humiliate me and all that.
Hey, Apostate Prophet is back. Oh, he's in his office now. He's got his little flex behind him.
I'm sorry, I dropped earlier. I have no idea what happened. Tell me if the volume is okay. On my phone, I dropped. I don't know.
Doesn't agree.
It's doing. Yeah. They want to come on the show. I decided that I should maybe just drop by because Hamza said I could come and present my arguments or So I'm coming in.
I want to say that I find it personally a big waste of time to discuss theism and to discuss specific moral arguments, the societal expectations and problems and all that. I have my major issues. I always have had my major issues with Islam when it comes to Islam's scientific claims, logical claims, the historicity, how Islam integrates past religious beliefs and elements, and how it, in my opinion, corrupts them. For example, one of the major issues that I have is the Kaaba. And I would like you guys, I know we don't have enough time to discuss that fully. I will have to go very soon. Sometime I have to deal with my chest.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, of Islamic belief. According to the Quran, the Kaaba was the first house that was built for Allah. And it is right there at the center in the mother of cities, Mecca. And according to the Quran, again, Allah gave Abraham and his son the mission, Ishmael, the mission to establish the Kaaba for him, and then to set its final stone, and then to go out into the world and to tell the people to come to the Kaaba and to visit it and to circumambulate it and so on.
So, David, we have a few facts here mentioned, which is the Quran says that Abraham built the Kaaba. The Quran says that the Kaaba was the first house built for Allah. And the Quran says that Allah told, or Abraham and Ishmael had the mission to go out and to tell the people to come to the Kaaba. Do you agree with these things? I mean, these are known facts about the Quran and in relation to the Kaaba, right?
Sounds good. Now, we're just going to leave this aside, but I detect a little inconsistency with the claim that Muhammad was the first messenger to come to the Arabs. But we'll just leave that aside for now. But yes, Abraham, Ishmael, they build it, establish it as a center of worship. And yep, it's supposed to be this place everyone's supposed to go to. It's gonna be this awesome pilgrimage site. And according to your buddy here, that's what it became for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. So it was successful for a while.
So here is my major reference. Quran chapter 3, verse 96. What does it say? According to the Sahih International Translation, it says, "Indeed, the first house established for mankind was that at Mecca, blessed and a guidance for the worlds." Or it actually says Becca, and Muslims interpret that this was an old name for Mecca, Becca, Mecca. That's what their claim is. And this is very important, very much related to an argument that will come in a little bit. Finally, here in Quran chapter 22, verse 26, and in the following verses, it says, "And when we designated for Abraham the site of the house, saying, 'Do not associate anything with me, and purify my house for those who perform tawaf,' circumambulation, and those who stand in prayer, and those who bow and prostrate." Now look what it says within the very next verse. It says, "And proclaim to the people the Hajj. They will come to you on foot and on every lean camel. They will come from every distant pass." Proclaim to the people. The word people here, mankind, is the Arabic word nas, which refers to mankind, the people of the world, because they will come to you on foot and on every lean camel. They will come from every distant pass. And this is what Allah says to Abraham and to Ishmael. So it's very clear within the narrative of the Quran that Abraham actually gives that Allah gives Abraham and Ishmael this mission to make this a thing for the world and to proclaim this message to everybody. The issue here is, during our discussion yesterday, when the whole thing appeared to not make sense anymore and seemed to contradict with Islam, this one guy, Hamza, in that discussion said, "Where do you get this from? Where do you get it from that the Quran actually says in for mankind, and this was for mankind?" And he denied that. And I was sure that the Quran does say it. I didn't want to insist because I was like, okay, did I get that wrong? You know, I had a moment of insecurity. But in the Quran here, it says so directly. It clearly says, "Proclaim to the people," or to mankind, and they will come to you from far away. So this is the message of the Quran. And within this logic, you would expect that Abraham, the forefather of the Jewish tradition and religion was informed about this matter, and that the Jews knew about this matter, and that this was relevant to the Jews. This is what you would expect logically, right? Tell me if I'm wrong about that. Is there anything you want to add, David?
No, not at this point, sir.
Fantastic. What am I doing? Okay.
When you look at the Islamic narrative, what you see is that the Kaaba is a hugely significant thing, right at the core of Islam. I mean, everyone knows that it is right there at the core of Islam. The narrative is that Abraham himself was given the Kaaba, and he was given the mission to spread the word about it. Yet when we look at the history of the Kaaba, we see that the Kaaba is not found in history. Christians and Jews, who were the people who ran with the Abrahamic tradition and history, had no idea what a Kaaba is until Islam came forth in the 7th century and started, becoming relevant in the world. So how do you guys exactly explain that, for example? Is that a discussion that you guys have? How does that exactly work? To me, it seems that... To me, it seems that the Kaaba.
Why does it bother you?
Well, because to me, it seems that the Kaaba is a pre-Islamic
pagan
Arab.
Why does it bother you? You're not a Muslim, so you don't have to believe it. Why does it bother you?
Well, because it proves Islam wrong.
How does it prove Islam wrong?
Because
do you see what happened here? I raise an objection to the Islamic core claims, and his response, his initial knee-jerk reaction to that is, "What does it bother you? What is it to you?"
Kaaba is, as it seems, a pre-Islamic Arab pagan element, which Muhammad simply incorporated into the Islamic religion. It has nothing to do with Abrahamic religion.
Why does that bother you?
I mean, why does it matter why it bothers me? What does it matter why it bothers me?
So what if the Quran is a lie and the Kaaba was just a center of pagan worship and Muhammad made up a bunch of stuff? Why would that bother you?
That's such a ridiculous objection. What kind of a dumb objection is that? Why does it bother you? I mean, I spread something. I give people lots and lots of information about a specific thing that I want people to believe in. And somebody comes to me and makes an objection to all those things that I preach. And I'm like, why does it bother you? Well, what's it to you? Just go away. How dumb is that?
One second real quick. Just a quick comment here. I had a question for Chad Norman. Now tell the truth here, Chad. You said Genesis 22, 5-8, Kaaba in the Bible. Everyone go read it. Are you serious in that comment? Are you actually making that claim, or are you like mocking someone's claim? Because we don't want to respond if you're joking. We don't want to take time to respond to it. If you actually take that seriously, that would actually be a fun addition to this current discussion.
Make a note of it, and we can additionally go into
that. That's why I just wondered if he could comment and say whether he's serious or not, because if he is, that's going to be funny.
Yeah.
And it is very reasonable to come to the conclusion that it has no connection.
Well, no, you're making the claim. Can you prove it?
I can prove that it has no connection to Abrahamic religion.
Go on, then. Prove it.
Yeah, I can prove it. Here, it takes no place within the Abrahamic biblical scripture. It has no connection. It is not within the knowledge of Jews and Christians prior to Islam. There is the proof.
Well, no, that's not proof.
Do you see what's going on here? They insist and ask me for proof of something that does not exist. So my entire assertion here is that the Islam makes a claim with the Kaaba at its very core foundation, but the Kaaba is only found within Islam and nowhere else. It has no connection to Abrahamic religion. It is not found within the narrative of these religions ever. And they're like, can you prove it? So what they're basically saying is, can you give us evidence that there is no evidence? Can you give us evidence that it doesn't exist? Can you give us evidence that there is no such thing? How am I supposed to give evidence that there is no such thing? I will get to that now.
It only came into fallacy. That's an ad ignorantium fallacy. That's not proof. That's an ad ignorantium.
Okay, pause that there. Pause that there.
Yeah,
he's saying it's an argument from ignorance. Now, as far as the different approaches here, Asadullah Ali probably. I mean, I only watched about half of it, but he has the best approach. His is still terrible, but it's better. Oh, Khalil. Okay, I was thinking Khalid. it's better than Khalil. Khalil's is just start pulling, I mean, just massacring the text and twisting every scripture he can find. Hamza, in the little part I saw, goes, who cares? We don't care, blah, blah, blah. Who cares what the Bible says? I don't care, right? And Asadullah here, his approach is to say, you're using an argument from ignorance. And I remember they're going to start using this as a mantra, which lots of people use, and it's generally a misuse, ladies and gentlemen. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, right? So if there's absence of evidence that the Kaaba was ever a center of monotheistic worship or had anything to do with Abraham or Ishmael or the true prophets, and so if there's no evidence whatsoever for that, that doesn't mean that it's not true. Now, guys, this is used in a really sloppy fashion, and it's just a situation where lots of Muslim apologists, they try to learn a little bit of philosophy, but a little bit of philosophy is just enough to be deceptive, right? It depends on the situation, right? Now, I'll give you an example. If you ask me, is there an insect in this room I'm in? And I say, well, I'm looking around. I don't see an insect in this room. Therefore, I conclude that there's no insect in this room. There's no bug in this room. Well, that's not a good argument. You might say it's some small degree of evidence. I don't see an insect around here, but it's not enough evidence to say that there is no insect. Why? Because there are all sorts of very tiny insects. There could be a moth behind my filing cabinets or something like that. I wouldn't see it. So I don't have a good reason to think that if there were an insect, I would definitely be aware of it, right? So in that case, you would generally say, yeah, not seeing evidence of an insect is not good enough reason to think that there isn't one, that there's not one in this room, right? Now, if someone said, David, is there an Asian elephant in your room? A fully grown Asian elephant in your room? I look around and I say, no, I don't see one. Well, that is a very good reason to conclude, a very, very, very good reason to conclude that there is no Asian elephant in my room. Why? Because if there were an Asian elephant in my room, unless you want to come up with some absurd explanation like it's also invisible and undetectable, well, unless you want to go do something like that, if there were an fully grown Asian elephant in my room, I would expect to see it, and I don't, and therefore I conclude there's no way there's an Asian elephant in my room, right? So the degree to which you can say, hey, I don't see any evidence, therefore it's probably not true, that it's proportional to how much evidence you would expect to find, right? So the question is, if the Kaaba were a center of monotheistic worship for 1,000 years, as Khalil's going to claim, if it were a monotheistic center of worship and the heart of worship established by Abraham and Ishmael, to which all people were called to come, and there are all these pilgrimages going there, and David witnessed the pilgrimage and so on, would you expect there to be some kind of evidence somewhere of that? So AP is saying, yes, I would expect to find that evidence. And Asadullah and Hamza apparently saying, no, it's not surprising at all that there's no evidence whatsoever for this claim being true.
What I'm also doing is, Asadullah has this very rigid way of using logic in order to make a very nice cop-out here. What I'm doing is not to say, hey, this is definitely false because of absence of evidence and this and this and that. What I'm doing is I'm going in there and challenging them and saying, hey, Islam makes a very big claim. That claim is entirely unfounded. There is much evidence needed, but there is no evidence, and there is evidence to the contrary. So how do you guys explain it? That is what I say. I did not go in there and say, hey, because of this and this and this and this and this is false. That's not what I did. And I will come to it again here to say that this is a very big claim that Islam makes about the core foundation of its religion. And if such a major claim, which we logically expect certain evidence from, is not supported by said evidence, that we have enough reason to conclude that that assertion is probably wrong, or we at least have good reason to doubt that assertion, right? And I'm going into that right now, and then they will shift.
Yeah, and that is a problem. They seem to be thinking that you're making some sort of deductive argument or something like that. Like, I've proven this, whereas, yeah, you're just using what's called an inference to the best explanation, right? You're not making a deductive argument. I think you would even grant it's possible that it was a center of monotheistic worship. It's just that all the evidence we have goes against that, right? And therefore, you can believe it. I can't rule it out. I can't say it's impossible. It's just I have to go where the evidence points, and the evidence doesn't point towards where you want to go. It points away from that, and therefore, I'm going with the alternative here.
Yeah, what I would say is it is very absurd of you guys to firmly believe in this when it is extremely unlikely. That's what I would say. Okay.
Explain.
Oh, no, you made the claim, mate.
Okay. I leave it to you. How do you explain it?
No. You made the claim.
Well, I would look.
Okay.
Well, you can let
but Hamza, I asked.
No, the answer, Esteban. No, look.
Oh, wait.
You made a claim.
I forgot to share the screen. All right, here.
Very unprofessional.
I told you that's not proof. So have you got anything else?
Okay, I asked you the question, right? I mean, that was the initial thing that I did. I asked you the question. So the Kaaba is at the center of Islamic belief, and it makes certain claims about the Kaaba. But those claims, when you look at it, cannot be proven, cannot be properly verified. And yet the Kaaba is at the foundation of Islam. How do you explain that big lack of information, of evidence? How do you explain this huge gap between the Islamic Kaaba and Abrahamic religion, when Abrahamic religion evidently has nothing to do with the Kaaba?
What do you think the religion of Abraham was?
Sorry, I had to.
It's not rather. I mean, how is it relevant to the issue? How can you explain the thing?
You're acting like Islam was invented in the 7th century.
Well, did you hear?
And guys, this is always, you got to be careful with this, right? Because they do this all the time, right? You're acting like Islam was invented in the 7th century. And then if you ask them what they mean by Islam, they'll just use it as a synonym for monotheism. Well, no, belief in one God is just called monotheism, right? Islam is a package deal, right? It's belief in one God and a whole lot of other things. And as far as Islam as this massive collection of beliefs about God and his nature and what he has revealed and how you spend eternity with him, that collection that is Islam, yes, everything we have to go on tells us that came about in the 7th century, right? Yeah. And what AP is doing here, he's giving one piece of evidence for that, right? The idea that you've got Muhammad coming along in the 7th century, and he's got this pagan center of worship, and he takes it over, seizes it, conquers Mecca, takes the Kaaba, and then just claims to his followers, nope, this is a place of true monotheistic worship. That was the first place. That was the first place that everyone is going to, worship at and so on. And Abraham built it and so on. The claim is that's false. And it's actually Muhammad inventing that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the claim. And so you find this with almost everything that Islam did not directly steal from someone else, that Muhammad is just making it up in the 7th century.
This guy, Hamza, is saying to me, you're acting like Islam was invented in the 7th century. And you genius. What I'm doing here is to come here and present solid evidence to point at the idea that Islam was invented in the 7th century. That's the entire point, man. That's the entire point, you genius.
But Ridvan, it's like you're saying that Islam isn't true. I'm so confused here. I mean, what are you, an atheist?
I mean, you're making fun of it. That's a perfect analogy. I mean, well, he's acting like that is absurd. He's acting like that's a perfect objection to what I'm doing here. Well, yes, I am arguing that Islam is false. Here's my evidence. You genius, man! Oh man, this guy has the weirdest objections during this entire conversation. You'll see.
Hey, can you actually pull up Bible verses?
I could, yeah.
can we just go? This will only take like 2 minutes to go through. I just want to, because they're still arguing about it in the chat, and it's so easy to just destroy.
Let's just take a note. Let's go into it in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want to wait. Where are we? Here. Okay.
My question would be this: if you want to really go on that route, is why would the son of a slave woman be important to the Jews? Why would the religion? Why would something?
Pause that. Now that's the best point. It's not a good point. It's the best point they could have made, but it completely contradicts everything Khalil's about to say, right? Because Asadullah here, notice, by the way, everyone notice what he's saying. AP is saying, hey, if this place is such an important place of monotheistic worship, why don't we find any evidence for it from the other monotheistic people? Why don't we find that there? And Asadullah is saying, wait a minute, why would they care about Ishmael? Right? They've got, they've got their own people, their own place of worship. They've got their own stuff. Why are they going to care about what this guy's doing out in the middle of the desert? Why would they care about that? So he's explaining why they don't know anything about it, why they don't say anything about it, why they don't talk about it, right? He's coming up with an explanation for why they don't care at all and why there's no evidence. And then Khalil's going to jump in and, it was this center of worship and a pilgrimage site for the Jews and blah. And so he completely just destroys everything Asadullah is saying.
You know how it feels.
The Jews did know about this. They did know about this. It was a pilgrimage site. They do know about it. And he tries to show that there's all this evidence in the Bible for it.
You know how it feels. I'm sitting there. I'm talking to these guys. Asadullah Ali says something. Khalil says something that is in complete contradiction with what Asadullah says. And Hamza comes on and keeps making weird noises that agree or disagree with either side. They are contradicting each other the entire time. Mm-hmm. Throughout the conversation, they're contradicting with each other the entire time on whether my argument is valid or not, on whether we should refer to the Bible or not. Khalil initially brings up the Bible as evidence. Then Hamza starts yelling at me because I talk about the Bible. It's so weird. But yeah, Asadullah definitely has the... in all honesty, the smartest way of dealing with the topic here. He's basically trying to shut down the whole discussion as nonsense, as irrelevant, and trying to basically cop out because he doesn't like it. Obviously, the methods he uses in order to cop out are pretty bad. You will see that this entire argument, for example, can immediately be countered with what I said at the very beginning. He asks, why should a temple or why should something that the son of a slave does in some wilderness matter to the Jews? Well, I said at the very beginning, it was Abraham and Ishmael who were given this mission according to the Quran, and given this mission to spread this practice to the people. So it should, as the descendants of Abraham, matter to the Jews. It should be central because this is the most important thing to Allah by the narrative of the Quran. I'll get to that in a second.
Established by the son of a slave woman, be important to the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition.
That's not the point, though. I mean,
because that's where the Arabs come from.
But it is Abraham himself. It is Abraham himself, isn't it? That who is given the task to establish this according to the Islamic narrative, and it is Abraham and his son who spread this whole thing to the world. And this is what Allah wants from humanity. But as you can see, for thousands of years, nobody even regarded the Kaaba as something important. Nobody even knew about the Kaaba until Islam came forth.
Again,
how does that make sense?
That's pointless to even bring up. I mean, it's a fallacious reasoning.
How is it fallacious? I mean,
it's an ad ignorantium fallacy. It's absence of evidence is evidence. It's not evidence of absence.
I mean, look. Even if
look, Ridwan, it's nothing to laugh at. That's a fallacious argument. That means that you're wrong.
It's not a fallacious argument. What is
it is.
I mean, it is a major claim that Islam makes about
Ridwan.
history of religion, and yet you see that
Ridwan. Let me just clarify a point that Asadullah just made. Do you believe absence of evidence is evidence of absence?
No, in the case of Islam, when it makes such a big claim, however,
as a principle.
Okay, can you please let me speak? In the case of Islam, when it makes such a big claim, which concerns the entire foundation of the Islamic faith, but this claim cannot be verified, and we have a lot of evidence to the contrary, such as that Abrahamic religion had no connection prior to Islam with the Kaaba, then I would accept that we have reasonable evidence to believe that the Islamic claim is false.
This was a summary of exactly what I wanted to say, which is...
Hey, I've got an example of how these guys are reasoning, right? Because as you point out, they're making the claim, and then you're saying there's no evidence for the claim, and they're saying, well, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And you're saying, well, I would expect there to be evidence for it because it's this big claim. Now, just imagine if these guys were police officers, right? They stop you, they pull you over, they say, step out of the car. They search you, they pat you down, they check your entire body, they do a cavity search, they check you completely, and they say, all right, we're charging you for having 1,000 pounds of crack cocaine. You say, what do you mean? You just searched me. You didn't find any crack cocaine. They say, well, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Therefore, we're concluding that you've got all this crack cocaine, right? Now, notice, guys, you should see how ridiculous that is, right? A police officer making a claim. You have a bunch of crack cocaine. You say, okay, well, where's the evidence for this? Well, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So you prove that you don't have, what do you mean you just searched me? Yeah, but that's not evidence that I'm wrong. That's what these guys are doing. The Kaaba is this great center of monotheistic worship, is so important, and it's built by Abraham and Ishmael, and the Jews are taking the pilgrimage there. And wait a minute, there's no evidence for any of that anywhere except for an illiterate 7th century Arabian caravan robber who said it, and he also happens to be one of the biggest liars in the history of humanity. So him saying it is not good evidence, and there's no other evidence to go on. And the response, well, yeah, but I mean, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Yep.
And notice, guys, again, it would be ridiculous if police or anyone else could reason like this. You've got 1,000 pounds of crack. What? You searched me. I don't have. Just because we didn't find any evidence doesn't mean it's not there. Wow.
I mean, let's bring it very close to a scenario of a Muslim inviting you to Islam, and let's make it very simple. A Muslim comes to you and says to you, "Hey, believe in Islam, believe in this religion. According to my religion, the Kaaba is the first house built for Allah. It was built by Abraham and Ishmael, and they were told to spread this to mankind so that people come to the house of Allah, to the Kaaba, and to worship there. And this Kaaba is very important. It's like the central thing to Abraham." And I go, wait a minute, so you want me to come to this religion, but you just made a lot of big claims. Those claims seem to be false, although I don't see any evidence for those claims. Can you prove that this is indeed true, that Abraham did indeed build that house, that all of this did indeed happen? And then the Muslim who invites me to Islam says, why do you ask me that question? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's evidence or not. So you have nothing to falsify what I've just said. Why does it matter? This is what they are doing. I'm raising an objection to something very simple that they said, a core claim about their religion. And I'm saying, hey, you're making a very big claim there. Where is the evidence? I don't see any evidence. And the absence of evidence to such a huge foundational thing makes it sound very absurd and very unlikely, and it makes me not want to believe in your religion. And they're like, excuse me, just because there is no evidence, it doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah, and guys, just to illustrate again, how much you're willing to apply this absence of evidence principle depends on how reasonable it is to expect evidence in that situation, right? If Islam claimed Abraham went to Mecca and ate a sandwich and then returned, okay, there's not a lot of evidence I would expect to find there. And therefore, the only reason there to think that it's false is, why in the name of common sense would Abraham go down to Mecca to eat a sandwich, right? It would be the absurdity of the claim. So I would say, well, I find that a very, very strange claim to make. I don't understand why that would happen. But as far as historical evidence, there's not a lot I would expect to find, and therefore absence of evidence here is not a problem. If you say Abraham did something really, really huge that was supposed to impact the world, and you can't find any evidence anywhere of that impact, then you got some issues. You would say, okay, did Abraham just fail immediately? What happened? But according to what Khalil's going to say, Abraham didn't fail. He was massively successful. It did become this massive center of monotheistic worship. There's just no evidence of it anywhere except if you do a lot of gymnastics with some Bible verses.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's go on. I want to get to the summary of the whole argument of that Khalil made.
No, what you have is, even within the Islamic narrative, we have this understanding that the pagans changed everything at the Kaaba.
Right.
And
this is my favorite moment. I'm sorry, I can't.
And made it a polytheistic place of worship.
Can you prove that?
So let me comment on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
After you use it, I finish your point.
No, it's gone.
No, I was gonna say exactly.
I'm laughing because I made a short video about this, like a 1-minute video. I don't know if you've seen it, but I only noticed this after the conversation because that Yusuf makes this claim that it is the Islamic narrative that the pagans took it and turned it into a pagan place of worship, and then I say, "Can you prove it?" And then he's like. I mean, it's a very simple thing. I mean, if I'm supposed to present evidence, why is it such a shocker?
Notice it's very similar. So they're explaining why the evidence is what it is, right? So notice AP is saying, "Hey, all the evidence we have tells us that this was this pagan center of worship," and he says, "Yeah, it's because we believe even though it was built by Abraham, it was turned into a pagan center of worship." And so, okay, well, what's the difference that it was turned into one after it was a center of monotheistic worship, by Abraham? Notice it's the same thing. It's the same sort of reasoning as you say, Jesus died by crucifixion. And Muslims say, no, he didn't die by crucifixion. And you say, but all the evidence we have tells us that he died by crucifixion. They say, aha, that's because Allah tricked everyone into thinking that. Well, yeah, that would account for it, but you're just saying that, right? There's no evidence that Allah tricked everyone. All you have is the evidence that Jesus was crucified. You don't have this additional evidence that Allah tricked everyone. You're just saying that in order to justify your belief, which goes against the evidence. Similarly, likewise here, the claim is that, yes, it was built as this center of pure Islamic monotheistic worship. Well, all the evidence we have tells us that it was a pagan center of worship. Yeah, that's because it became one. Well, great. You don't have any evidence that it became one and that it was first this monotheist. All you have is the claim is the evidence that it was a pagan center of worship. That's all the evidence you have. Mm-hmm. So AP is asking, what evidence do you have? We all agree that the Kaaba was once a pagan center of worship. The question, what evidence do you have that it was something else before that?
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, a couple of these guys seem to think none.
That's a shocker, apparently.
None, but they don't think that's a problem. And then Khalil's going to say, oh, we've got evidence. We've got mountains of evidence, really bad evidence. But if I thump my chest while saying it, it really sounds good to gullible people who've never read the actual passages.
No, I'll get to it. Look, guys, please, I want to emphasize this. Khalil will go ahead and will start presenting evidence, supposed evidence for the Kaaba and the Bible. His main focus will be on one Bible chapter, which I will, of course, open and we will go through it, Psalms 84. And he will make a series of huge lies and assertions that are completely baseless. About Psalms 84, he will say at least 4 or 5 lies, all with a straight face, while thinking that he's absolutely right, and people will applaud him for that. And we'll go through that extensively. Listen.
Point. Islam never makes the claim that it's been a house of monotheism since Abraham until Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They never make that claim. It is clear during Fath Mecca, right, the conquest of Mecca, or the entry of Mecca, that the Prophet ﷺ went in and destroyed all the idols. So we're telling you, you know this information because of us. We're telling you there was house of idols. So obviously, for a long period of time, it was switched from monotheism to pagan belief and have idols.
This guy doesn't even have any idea what I'm asking for. I mean, it's very obvious that it is a pagan temple. That's what I am saying. What I'm asking you is, where is proof that it was once a monotheistic Abrahamic temple, dude?
Yeah, I mean, guys, just for those of you Muslims who are watching, you don't understand what it's like to be us talking to you. Just imagine, you're exploring somewhere over here, and you find this ancient Aztec temple, and suppose a Christian comes along and says that was actually a Christian temple. And you say, what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? It wasn't a Christian temple. It's an Aztec temple. You say, no, it was a Christian temple. But then the Aztecs corrupted it and turned it into an Aztec temple. It started as a Christian church. and you say, what evidence do you have that it was a Christian church? All the evidence we have tells us that it was just an Aztec temple. And suppose the Christian says, well, I mean, yeah, but I already said that it was turned into an Aztec temple from the Christian church. So how do you not get this, dummy? How can you be so stupid? I'm the one who told you that it became an Aztec temple. Look, it looks like an Aztec temple. So I'm right. It did become that. See, dummy, right? Anyone would say, what the heck are you talking about? How can you be like this? And yet that's the heart of Islamic apologetics right there.
I don't know if people are noticing it, but what David did here is not a far-fetched mockery that has nothing to do with it. It is an exact analogy of what just happened. This is the very same thing that just happened here. And I mean, if that sounds extremely dumb, what David just said, then that shows how dumb it actually sounds to us.
That's what it sounds like to us, guys, when these guys say it.
Now, if we entertained your question, right? Although the brothers already demonstrated that it's not really logical, okay?
It's not logical.
You don't know about it. It's not true. Just because you don't believe it, for whatever reason, because otherwise they have to accept Islam, right? Doesn't mean it's not there. You know, the Bible, Psalm 84, talks about a valley of Becca, where there is a temple called Beit El, house of God, right? Where it is outside of Jerusalem, not in Jerusalem area. Now,
so okay, what did he say? In Psalms 84, it talks about, let's go through this again. It talks about a place called Becca.
Doesn't mean it's not there. You know, the Bible, Psalm 84, talks about a valley of Becca, where there is a temple called Beit El, house of God, right? Where it is outside of Jerusalem, not in Jerusalem area. Now,
so Psalms 84 talks about a place called Becca, where there is a temple of God called Beit El in Hebrew, apparently, and this place is outside of Jerusalem. This is what he said so far, right?
Yeah, and I'll just say in advance, guys, if you Muslim apologists of the world, I want you to take the approach of Khalil. If you're wise, don't take this approach. I want you to take this approach because it's the easiest approach to refute, right? But if you have an ounce of common sense, do not start arguing from the Bible here. It's too easy to just pull it up. Go to a more modern translation. I mean, unless you like the
I like the New King James Version, unless people tell me not to. I don't know. What do you want me to go with?
No, I just wanted. I don't know if it's going to be worded.
I don't like reading the King James Version, but it's what many people prefer. So.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You got the King James only people, but modern versions are just going to be easier to read.
Okay, so here. Psalms 84, right? This is his major reference. Psalms 84. Should we just read the whole thing from the very beginning, or should we just go ahead? So what he's talking about is this specific part here. Blessed is the man whose strength is in you, whose heart is set on pilgrimage.
Pilgrimage! Muslims take a pilgrimage. This is proof. Alhamdulillah. This is proof. It says pilgrimage. Oh my goodness, this must be Mecca. Muslims are the only people in history who take a pilgrimage anywhere.
I would go into the Hebrew transliteration and the text of it directly. I think I have it saved somewhere else. The text doesn't even say pilgrimage; it says path, and it is interpreted as or used as pilgrimage because that is what it refers to. But the guy will also use the whole term pilgrimage as his absolute proof that this is true. As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a spring. The rain also covers it with pools. They go from strength to strength. Each one appears before God in Zion.
Zion.
This is what he's Zion. About. Okay, this is what he's talking about. A valley of Baca, and each one appears before God in Zion. Now, he said two things. He said one thing, which is Valley of Baca. Okay, there is a thing here called the Valley of Baca. But he also said that there in the Valley of Baca, there is a house of God, or called Beitel. If you look into this whole chapter, there is no such thing. It says here, blessed are those who dwell in your house. The Hebrew text here says nothing about Beitel. It says at the very beginning here, your tabernacle. It says nothing about Bethel. Bethel is not mentioned anywhere here. He will allude to Bethel because he thinks that that corresponds to the Arabic use of the Kaaba, which is called Bethel or Baytullah, for example, House of Allah. And additionally, he says this is outside of Jerusalem, but when you look at the text, this only says they go from strength to strength. Each one appears before God in Zion. Zion, David, what is Zion?
That's Jerusalem, right? That's Mount Zion. That's where they, that's where that's where they built the temple and so on.
Admittedly, I made a mistake here within the next few minutes while arguing about this. And a mistake where maybe because of my lack of knowledge and lack of control over the text here, I made a mistake here, which gave him a little bit of strength in his argument.
Throughout history, the Kaaba has been the only place of a house of worship that is outside Jerusalem. Now, some people try to say,
what?
Oh, it has to do with the Temple of Solomon. Huge mistake, because Solomon is the son of David. This was a psalm by David, and at the time there was no temple of Jerusalem.
Okay, additional mistakes here. I don't know if you made any notes of this, David. He says that when people say that this refers to the temple in Jerusalem, they're making a huge mistake. A huge mistake. You know, he's referring to scholars. He's referring to Bible scholars who say that this refers to Jerusalem. And he's sitting there as this little guy and says, huge mistake. Because in the time of this, the temple in Jerusalem wasn't there. Because this was written by David. Which is, I'm sorry, not true.
Well, notice. If you grant that, right? Because this doesn't say it was written by David, right? I believe it says, could you go back to the beginning? Does it say sons of Korah?
Yeah, sons of Korah.
Yeah, sons of Korah, right? So this does have something to do with the king and so on, but this could come from a variety of sources. Now, if you want to say that this comes from David, notice the literal translation at the beginning. How lovely is your tabernacle? They did have a tabernacle, right? Yep. The temple is built by Solomon, right? The temple is built by Solomon. Before that, they had a tabernacle, right? So some translations use that figuratively and just means a dwelling place, right? Like even the temple is a dwelling place for God. So if you want to say that, well, it can't be the temple because this is written by David, well, great, then just go with tabernacle. Either way, it's talking about Zion. It's talking about Mount Zion, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, whether it's the tabernacle or whether it's the temple, whether it's written by David or someone after him, we know what it's talking about, and it's not talking about a place almost 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. What's also funny is that just because, granted that this was written in the time of David, granted that it was written by David, even if that were true, the assertion here is this is the sons of Korah. Not all Psalms are entirely written by David, according to the scholarly consensus. Even if you granted all that, this does not mean that there has to be the temple in Jerusalem, in Zion, in order for this to refer to Zion. As you said, it talks about the dwelling place, the tabernacle. We have earlier scriptural evidence, I think, from what was that? We have in this time, in David's time, David is already supposed to have brought the Ark of the Covenant to the center, to Jerusalem.
Yeah, that's the tabernacle.
The focus is already supposed to be there. So Zion, in this case, already refers to this place. It already refers to the Mount Zion, already refers to the tabernacle, already refers to the center, the place of worship, which is Jerusalem. So there is no hint, no sign at all anywhere here that this is far away from Jerusalem. On the contrary, it says the roads to Zion before God in Zion. So what this clearly looks like is that the Valley of Baqa, when it says passing through the Valley of Baqa, they make it a spring. This is on the way to Jerusalem, to the heart of Jerusalem. That is exactly what this is talking about.
So these are people. This is not people walking away from Jerusalem and going to Mecca. Mm-hmm. This is people passing through some valley. And they do correctly point out, people don't know what this refers to, which valley this is, because this is the only, as far as I recall, this is the only time in the Bible where this valley is mentioned, right? Yes. So that's a situation where, and notice they were saying, well, which one does it refer to? Name a valley, name a valley. Jerusalem is surrounded by valley. I mean, there are all kinds of valleys all around there. It could refer to any valley that people were walking through. Apparently there was some kind of, because Khalil mentioned that people sometimes translate it as Valley of Weeping and so on.
We'll get to that.
There's a kind of plant that was called Baqa because it looked like it was weeping. It would leak resin, and so it could either be because people would weep going through there. It could be because that plant was there that actually looked like it was crying. That it could be called the Valley of, and there is a valley that's like that in that area that has those plants. Khalil was saying no, because it uses the article. I mean, my goodness, go through the Bible. They constantly named places after things that were happening there. They did it over and over and over and over and over again. So yeah, I mean, so his basic argument is, I think he said something like, well, Zion doesn't mean it's Zion that you think of. It could be a different Zion, could refer to all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And it says Baqa, but that's another name for Mecca, where we come from. And he's passing through the valley of Baqa. They make it a spring. That's Zamzam water, right? It's like, my goodness, man, that's not even really talking about an actual spring of Zamzam water there. It is being metaphorical. Yeah, passing through the valley of Baqa, they make it a spring. The interpretation here would be, it's like a dry kind of valley, and either they make it a spring because they're weeping with joy or something like that, their tears, and hence the connection to the tears, or they make it such a happy place. It's like it's a fun place with springs, and so there's no way this is talking about Zamzam. What people don't pass through Mecca and make Zamzam water, right? Muslims, do you believe that? Because that's what your apologist said. That's what your Dawah guy said, that people go to Mecca and that creates the Zamzam water. That's what he's claiming. If he's saying that this is talking about Mecca here, and you believe him.
Yeah. The major interpretation here is apparently that this is written by the Korahites, where or from the perspective of the Korahites, where they express their longing for this place, for the path to Zion, where in a valley of weeping, the people of joy spread tears, as it is interpreted, thereby making it a spring. This dry valley, they make it a spring, and this rain also covers it with blessing. Could either be literal rain, or could be the rain which metaphorically, comes from their joyful tears, which makes this place a spring. This has nothing to do with some well like the Zamzam well. I want to add one more thing here. Actually, I want to be very good here today. I picked out this nice little thing where where we have the text in Hebrew and we have the transliteration and the translation here. Okay, so here's a text in Hebrew, here's a transliteration, and here's a translation of it in the King James Version. Now, if you go through this transliteration, you will not see anywhere here that it says anything about Beitel, which is house of God, referring to the Kaaba, according to our dear smart friend Khalil here. He completely made that up. There is no such thing. The transliteration never says Beitel here. The Hebrew text never says Beitel here, which is why such a thing does not take place. Moreover,
no, almost everything he said about any of the texts he cited, he lied about. I mean, just flat out making things up. And guys, I don't just toss that around lightly. You take someone like Asadullah Ali, and he's saying, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. There, I just get the sense that he doesn't know what he's talking about very well. Not that he's trying to deceive. When you start twisting scriptures and saying, aha, it says this, and then you move on very quickly and then pretend that you just showed some sort of point, and you're clearly just making things up left and right and twisting scriptures into things that there's no way it was ever saying. I have no choice but to conclude you're just a deceiver. And the problem is dawah always seems to involve deception. Dawah is a combination of deception and manipulation. There is meant to deceive gullible people into accepting Islam and meant to give Muslims a false confidence in Islam. But I mean, think about this. This is the apostate prophet. He's saying, hey, I have a simple little issue here. Not answer it if you can. You got multiple people there who do dawah all the time. And what they come up with is scripture twisting and bad, really, really bad logic and philosophy.
Yep. What I want to add here, which is very crucial, because Khalil and his friends and many other Muslims usually use this text, uses Psalms 84 reference, and they specifically use this word Baka here to say, hey, look, it can't be a coincidence. It sounds just like Mecca. It sounds just like Mecca. This can't be a coincidence. It talks about a valley of Baka while on pilgrimage and this and that. It doesn't actually sound like Mecca at all. It also doesn't sound like Mecca's supposed ancient name Becca at all. That's not what it sounds like. In the transliteration, if you go into here, I think people who are familiar with Arabic should already see that the text is actually not Becca. It is right here, Bacha, and I will show to you how it's.
Did you even see what it said under it? It said a valley in Palestine.
Oh my God. Yeah,
liars!
Okay.
They're trying to cover up the truth of Islam.
Yeah. These Christian and Jewish scholars, they lie about it. Otherwise, they would all have to convert to Islam. That's why they're lying.
Think about this. If Khalil saw that, he would say, "You see, they're going against the evidence." And whereas anyone reading that ever would say, "Wait a minute, this is some valley that leads into Jerusalem." It's got to be a valley in Palestine. It's not something 1,000 miles away, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now look at this. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for how it is pronounced. Let's listen to this. This is a Hebrew pronunciation that I randomly picked out of Psalms 84. Okay.
מזמור פ-ד' למנצח על הגיתית לבני קורח מזמור. מה ידידות משכנותיך, אדוני צבאות, נחשפה וגם קלטה נפשי לחצרות אדוני ליבי ובשרי, ירננו אל חי. גם ציפור מצאה בית ודרור כן לה, אשר שתה אפרוחיה, את מזבחותיך אדוני צבאות, מלכי ואלוהי. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלע. אשרי אדם עוז לו בך, מסילות בלבבם. עוברי בעמק הבכה.
Did you guys catch that?
He said Bacha.
Oh my God.
ין ישיתוהו, גם ברכות יעטה מורה.
This can't be real. How can this be possible? I thought it's supposed to sound like Mecca. I thought it's supposed to sound like Mecca. Let's listen to this again.
Hey. It's just like when they say Muhammad is mentioned in Song of Solomon 5:16, but it says Mahmadim. Yeah, just like Muhammad.
Let's listen to this again. How does it sound? How could this be true? He says Bacha.
Bacha. It's just like Mecca. Mahmadim. It's just like Muhammad.
He says Bacha. How can this be? This guy must be ignorant. He must be a liar. I don't know. Wow. This is so Islamophobic, man. This is so Islamophobic. This is crazy. This is insane.
Yeah, this video should be banned as hate speech against Muhammad.
So the text here, this little word here, this little name, which these Muslim apologists like Khalil intelligently want to take into use for Mecca, because it apparently sounds so similar, is actually not Becca. It is not Becca. It is Bacha. Bacha. As opposed to the Arabic Mecca. Mecca and Bacha. Do they sound similar, David?
No, guys, you may wonder why we're harping on this point. The point here is Everything in the text makes it sound like this has absolutely nothing. It can't possibly have anything to do with Mecca or the Kaaba. There's no way. I mean, no way. I mean, they identify the place as Zion. They talk about, and it's, well, they say that when people walk through it, it becomes a spring. That's Zamzam water. And it says Bacha. That sounds like Mecca. And it's like, you sit here and think, how could anyone take this seriously? And yet the Muslims are, yes, alhamdulillah, it's so clear. How could anyone deny this conclusive proof? And they're just programmed to mindlessly accept anything their apologists say and have complete confidence in it. And guys, Muslims, I just want to tell you, if this is your method, we found a word that doesn't really sound like this other word, but we're going to say that it sounds like this other word, and we're going to ignore everything else in the text that refutes us and say that it's complete proof. If that's your method, you can prove anything from anything. You could use any text to prove anything you want. You could prove any religion using that method. Here's what I would say. If the methodology that you use to prove that your religion is true could be used to prove that anything, even something completely false, is true, you probably got a really messed up methodology. A very, very messed up methodology.
Absolutely. You know what? Since this happened, since this conversation took place yesterday, was it yesterday? I don't know. Days go by so fast. I saw many Muslims do this thing, like say, "Whoa, AP got absolutely schooled. Wow, our Muslim apologists, our Muslims schooled apostate."
I absolutely love it. I mean, some people find it disheartening. Oh man, I can't believe they all think they. I love it. I always think that they've got this. If you can spout complete nonsense and all of your guys start cheering for it, that gives me an opportunity to step back and say, everyone else who's not part of this, look at that. Anyone with an ounce of common sense can look at that and say, that was a horrible, horrible argument, and yet they've all been programmed to cheer for it. Do you see this? Do you see this? In other words, it helps us long term to be able to point that out.
Yeah. Look, guys, I am very serious and very honest. Yesterday, was it yesterday? I don't
think it was yesterday. I think it was the day before.
The day before, maybe. I don't know. I completely lost count. Yeah, I think it was the day before, whatever. So when I went there, in all honesty, I knew that this arena would take place. I knew that Hamza said to me, "Hey, if you want to take your objections, come to the arena." And I saw that it is planned for Friday 3:30 according to my time. And I was thinking maybe I should join and bring some of these objections to them. But I thought, I don't really think I want to do that. But I waited. I was taking my time. It was 3:25. And I thought, you know what, I'll join. I suddenly made the decision. Until I joined, I wanted to go into something completely different. I wanted to go into prophecies, to be very honest. I decided within the 1 minute of them taking me into the show that I want to talk about the Kaaba. This is not even something, I have to be very honest. I'm not very great at planning, not very great at planning ahead. I didn't even plan this. This is something that I decided in the last moment. I thought, you know what? I leave that stuff to some different time. I don't even think they will let me speak. Well, let me just talk about the Kaaba. So I went in there and started talking. And as you can see, I conducted myself in a nice way. I genuinely approached them in a calm way. I didn't lose my crap. I didn't start yelling at them. I was nice with them. What they did was to lie and lie and lie, kick me out in the end, and then to share stupid memes, and then for an entire day go about how apostate prophet is destroyed, ex-Muslims are ashamed, no one believes critics of Islam anymore, destroyed, humiliated, schooled, boy. Dude, I mean, just look at this. We have been sitting here for an hour now and demonstrated that this supposed schooling that this Khalil guy gave was so dumb, so idiotic, that only within 5 minutes of him speaking, he made so many mistakes and made so many lies. And people seriously celebrated that and said, well, yeah, we schooled him, boys. We schooled him. I'm sorry, but if you are one of those people, I really don't want to be mean, but if you are one of those people who, adopts that attitude, treats critics of Islam in this way, becomes arrogant and haughty and says, yeah, we schooled you, we destroyed you, and this and that, you are a complete idiot. You are a fool. You are a moron. We have here thousands of people sitting here and laughing about you.
Yeah. Really? I mean, if when one of these guys converts one day, when one of these apologists converts to something else one day, becomes a Christian or an atheist or something like that, I'll say, look, before you tell anyone that you've left Islam, I want to do a little experiment just to prove something about your followers. Pull up a random passage from the Bible. Do not look at what it is. Just randomly point to something and say that Muhammad is mentioned there and say that it proves Islam, and then make up a bunch of stuff about the Hebrew meaning of the word. Let it be completely obviously false. Let one of us go in there and say, look, that's not what the verse says. Look, nothing you're saying is true. Look, that doesn't fit the context. You're completely wrong. Everything you just said is a lie, because we want to show everyone that your followers will still cheer for you and say you schooled everyone anyway.
Yeah.
And it's totally true. It's totally true. They could, a Muslim apologist, a Muslim dawagandist could point to any verse of the Bible and say anything he wants about it, no matter how idiotic, no matter how absurd, thump his chest and say, you see, I crushed them, I schooled them all. And all his followers would believe it completely. Mm-hmm. And somehow, dawagandists, the dawa guys, the da'is, that's what they're doing. They're programming this mindless mob of followers to believe whatever they say.
Yeah.
And it's, again, there's no other way to say it. Dawa is a combination of deception and manipulation meant to deceive gullible people. That's it. Guys, I'm not being I'm not trying to be insulting with that. I don't see how you can regard it as anything other than that.
And stupidity, willful ignorance. I'm sorry, I have to say it. In all honesty, with many Muslim apologists, when they sit there and try to defend Islam against the enemies of Islam, in all honesty, I don't believe that most of the time they are meaning to lie and meaning to deceive everybody. What I think is most of the time they are just trying to deceive themselves, because it is so painful for them to accept that they are wrong. It is so hurtful for them to accept that they may be wrong and that these enemies of Islam may be right, that they lie to themselves, and while doing that also lie to the entire world and lie to their followers, while then angrily mocking others about that. I mean, it is sad. It is really sad. I don't know what to say. Boy, oh boy. Okay, there is some very critical stuff that we have to get into. So I want to keep this going, especially the whole thing with David going somewhere. But just a second. Okay.
No Temple of Solomon. So the only place that was the worship of God, Beit El, is the Kaaba. And we have clear demonstration.
The only place.
Running from...
The only place of worship in the world outside of Jerusalem was Kaaba. Yeah.
I don't know whether you know the history of...
Hey, pause it. Weren't prophets sent everywhere according to this guy?
They all failed. Nobody listened to them.
Every last one of them. Wow.
They all failed. Wow. Nobody took them seriously. They all failed. They all got killed.
No wonder they like Muhammad so much. Is the only prophet of Allah's thousands of prophets who didn't fail completely.
Nobody listened to all those. Allah sent those prophets. He picked them out. It was like, this is my guy. He's going to go there and tell all these people to worship me. But they all failed because people thought these guys are stupid. Let's not listen to these prophets. You know what? Let's kill them. You know what? Let's not take them seriously. Let's mock them. Let's make them court jesters. Nobody took them seriously. Only Muhammad. Muhammad was the only guy who was taken seriously.
Whose soul is on these people. He ran away from the history of was.
Okay, let's get back.
The worship of God, Beit El, is the Kaaba. And we have clear demonstration that David at the time was running from I don't know whether you know the history of whose soul is on these people. He ran away from the king at the time. He stayed there for a while. He wrote a psalm about how much he misses this place. The only person on earth that will go through, and the word pilgrimage is mentioned there, by the way, in Psalm 80.
Okay.
Guys, let me tell you what he's saying and combine it with the Bible. So in the Bible, David is this young guy, and he starts off by helping Saul. Saul's the king. Saul's the king of Israel. And David's helping him at first, but Saul starts realizing, wow, a lot of people love this David guy, this young guy, David, more than they love me. And then David finds out Saul's trying to kill him, so he runs. But all the places he runs are like close by. He runs and hides in caves, right? He runs and hides in caves. Eventually, when things get really bad, he goes to the Philistines, who are, they're a couple miles that way. The Philistines are a couple miles that way. There's the line in between them, but they're a couple miles that way. He goes and hides among them and so on. This guy's actually concluding. And this is why I said this is deception. This is deception and manipulation, because who's he appealing to here? He's appealing to viewers who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. He gives them a limited amount of information. Hey, there was a time when David had to run away. Well, that's true. Where did he go? He wants you to believe it was to Mecca, to a pilgrimage to Mecca. And that's where he saw this pure worship in Mecca. And then he came back and wrote a psalm about it. He came back and wrote a psalm about it. So that's what his claim is, right? That's what his claim is. Now, that is so ridiculous if you actually are familiar with the text. That's why I said this is meant for gullible people who don't know anything about the text. We know where David went. We know where David went. He did not go far. He didn't go far. He stayed very close. He was generally in Israel, hiding in different places. It's like me. I grew up in West Virginia, a little place called Granville, West Virginia. We played on the mountains and built forts in the mountains and ran around on the mountains. That's where we played after school. If you were trying to capture me, you weren't going to, if you were like a police officer or something, you were going to come try to get me. You would not catch me in those woods, because I knew a million places to hide and a million places to go. That's what David is doing. He knows this area. He's been in this area. And so it's hard to catch him. When things get especially dangerous, he goes and lives. He goes over and hides with the Philippines. Yeah, look at this. Look at this map right here. Right.
I made this video 2 years ago. I dealt with this topic, Kaaba and the Bible debunked. I made this in November 2018. Already dealt with similar things, not with the topic of David, because I never thought someone would be as ridiculous as to bring that as proof up. But I made this for a different purpose, to show that Abraham wouldn't just go from here to here.
Yeah, but notice now he's saying, hey, David was on the run from Saul, and instead of hiding in a cave, he went down to Mecca to hide. Could you pull up a site, like a map site, like Google Maps or something like that, so we can actually see what the distance is? So go Google Maps and type just Jerusalem. That's in the general area. David was from Bethlehem, so that's right beside it. But go Jerusalem to Mecca, and then we'll see what that's going to come up. I think it's about 900 or 1,000 miles. It's a good little way. Notice, everyone who's watching, Mecca, Saudi Arabia to Jerusalem, Israel. Where did it just go? What's up for a second?
I don't know. So it doesn't work on my screen here. That is weird.
It was there for a second.
I know it was, but just for some reason it disappeared. Here, let me bring this up here. Oh. Okay, here.
Okay, there you go. So 16 hours by driving. 16 hours by driving, and it's 1,482 kilometers. So almost 1,000 miles. It's almost 1,000 miles. And notice that's about the route you would walk. So the claim is David's hiding from Saul, and he runs almost 1,000 miles to hide in the middle of a desert. And he gets there to the middle of to Mecca, and then wow, what a great place of worship. And then he runs back and becomes king, and then writes a song about it. Now, everyone who's not a fan of Islamic Dawah is watching this going, that is the most idiotic, insane thing I've ever heard in my life. You might as well say David fled to Mars, right? I mean, that's how it almost sounds that ridiculous. But guess what? Everyone who loves Dawah is going, yes, it's conclusive proof. Oh my goodness. Oh, the Bible says it. The Bible says David fled. Where else could he have gone? There's nowhere else you could run in the entire world besides Mecca. It must be Mecca. Oh, alhamdulillah. This is the clear proof that Islam is true. And notice, it's not. This is coming from their apologists. Their Dawah guys say this. There's no way this could be meant for a sincere person who honestly goes where the evidence points. You'd never conclude it. You could never read the Bible and think that David went down to Mecca when he was running from Saul. You never. It talks about. It tells you where David went. It tells you the places David was hiding.
Look, it says here. Am I right here? 1 Samuel 20:21. I think
that's where he goes. That's where he goes to the Philistines.
That day, David fled from Saul and went to Achish, king of Gath. That's
one of the 5 kings of the Philistines.
Yeah, Philistines. So this is where he flees. How in the world does he go from there down to Mecca? I mean,
yeah.
This is where he seeks refuge.
Yeah, guys. So notice how this actually makes sense. David, there were places for David to hide within Israel. You can hide. It's not, it's not like, they don't have a lot of high-tech equipment to track you and so on. If you got away and went and hid in a cave, kind of hard to catch you. If things got especially bad, Israel was surrounded by enemies. And if you ran there and said, hey, I'm the guy Saul is trying to kill, well, suddenly you don't look like such a bad guy. Wait a minute, Saul's trying to kill this guy? Saul's trying to kill him? And so that makes sense. You want to know what doesn't make sense? That somehow David says, hey, I'm actually pretty safe. You know where I'd really be safe? Let me go 1,000 miles away in the desert for no reason at all, because there's nowhere else I can go to be safe. That's just insane. And yet it's standard Islamic apologetics. This is Islamic apologetics 101. It's amazing stuff. And notice AP is a stubborn bigot for not accepting this when Khalil was saying this.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
He's got a hard heart. He's not accepting the clear proof.
It is fantastic. It is amazing to me. What's funny is I don't know if you want to go that far, but later on he also mentions that Abraham he brings the usual thing. Abraham built a temple, the sacrifice and this and that took place down in Mecca apparently because it was the desert of Paran, and the desert of Paran is thought to be in Arabia and all that. I think we'll get to that as well, but I don't know. There's just so much material for nonsense in here. It is incredible how these people actually think they have made a good point.
People go on pilgrimage to a place called the Valley of Becca. Now we know the name Mecca is called Becca as well. It's mentioned in the Quran. And
they're not going to the Valley of Becca. They're going through the Valley of Becca. Of Becca. Wow.
The text here, Mr. Sir, the text here clearly says that you're passing through the Valley of Becca to go before God in Zion. What are you talking about, man?
Wow.
Oh boy. David, you know what's very funny? I have to do this now. I have to bring up something hilarious. Wait a minute. Wait. There was this before I joined their chat. There was some guy on before me. I have no idea what in the world he was talking about. I think he was trying to preach some weird new Christian or black Christian stuff to them, and I had to wait in the back for that guy to end his preaching to them. And I was cracking up because of how that guy was talking to them. And he kept telling them, sir. And I was cracking up.
I didn't even hear it, but I just heard you saying it, and it sounds funny.
Yeah.
Right. You guys, I haven't interrupted you.
Stop interrupting.
Except for now, because now I'm tired of your waffling. Do you understand what that word means?
That's the point. It's
the
biggest issue here.
Means that you're talking too much without getting to the point. Yeah. And the point puts out a YouTube video. There's seriously this.
And National Geographic is
my videos.
So so many times, I don't know.
This is something that's similar to like the Petra thing in Mecca, right? Someone who was Becca.
There's something that happened at the end of this which cracked me up, and I was then totally in the mood to get into the conversation. Look at this. They muted him. Hamza muted him, and then he became very cocky about his commanding the audience here.
I just for the record, there are times to pull the race card. If I were this dude, I'd be like, "Oh, muting the black man. You see it? Muslims muting the black man." I would totally, guys. I would totally do that.
Wait. All right, now you can speak, BJ. George, behave yourself.
Brother, if I hear you say "behave myself" one more time, I'm going to say something very ugly about your ugly ass beard. You hear me?
No. Behave yourself.
See you later.
Look, so that's where they cut him. Look, the same thing. I would have pulled a race card right there. You better watch him, blah, blah, blah. I would have come back and been like, Yes, master. Is that what you want me to call you? Because you're shouting orders at me, and you're. I would totally do it, man.
Yeah, I was sitting there. I'm kind of getting into the mood, preparing myself, looking at topics that I should talk about, and that guy keeps going back and forth with these guys. Says, "Sir, sir, sir." Then in the end, he says this, and I just totally lost it. And I don't know. and I was ready for the conversation. That made me feel better. Yeah, boy. Anyway,
that's not. I actually like big beards, so I couldn't make fun of him for that because I like. I have a problem in that my beard grows straight out like this, so I can't grow I would totally have a big long beard if it would just grow straight down, but. Yeah. So
the issue is, I mean, I don't have an issue with it either. But these guys, behave like this, think they can just command everybody around, think they can make any kind of remark, whatever they want, and then somebody comes and actually just tells him his opinion. He's like, "Hey, wait a minute, you don't tell me to behave myself," and then they kick him out.
Prior to Islam, Allah refers to it as Becca, but when Allah talks about Mecca during Islam, time of the Prophet, He calls it Mecca because the name was changed.
Yeah, so the Quran once calls the city of Mecca Becca, and once calls it Mecca. And the Islamic interpretation is that Becca was an ancient name, an old name for Mecca. And of course, Becca sounds so similar to the Valley of Becca. But as we have found out, unfortunately, the Bible doesn't say Valley of Becca. It says Valley of Baha, which is, of course, a very Islamophobic reading of the Bible.
Yeah. And they're passing through it, they're passing through it on their way to Zion.
Uh-huh.
Every claim this guy makes is false. I mean, every one. And yet, and notice this is his evidence. It's, hey, I'm going to give you the evidence to show you that Islam is right about Mecca and the Kaaba and so on. And all I'm going to do is lie a bunch.
Yeah.
Now, there are plenty of references where you can find this information. Now we ask, where is this place? It's called the House of God. People go in pilgrimage. That is not Temple of Solomon, and that is a way that David has to come back and visit. So it is there. It's also mentioned in Isaiah 60, where people bring flocks of sheep to the sacrifice in Beit El, House of God. This is practice.
Oh, my goodness. Can you replay that part again?
Okay, yeah.
Isaiah 60. House of God, and they bring.
Also mentioned Isaiah 60, where people bring flocks of sheep to the sacrifice in Beit El, House of God. This is prior to the Temple of Solomon.
Okay, prior to the Temple of Solomon, in Isaiah 60. Do you want me to pull that up? Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, just for a context, because keep in mind the chapter numbers; those are a more recent invention. So to get the context of who's being addressed, go to Isaiah 59, and let's go towards the end of Isaiah 59.
All right,
and see before so that we know from the beginning who he's talking to. So just click on the left arrow. There's a left arrow there. Over to your side. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just click on that to go to 59. Now go towards the end. Again, the modern chapter headings. Go down to, let's see. Look, verse 20. Verse 20. A redeemer will come to Zion, and to those in Jacob who turn from wrongdoing, declares the Lord. And so notice, a redeemer will come to Zion, and to those. If that's not clear enough, if you're still in, well, who knows what Zion means? It doesn't have to refer to Mount Zion, the place of. It doesn't have to be that. It could be anything. It could be Mecca, right? To those in Jacob. Wrong brother, Muslims. Wrong brother. He's talking to the wrong brother here, right? All right, now go to the next chapter. So we know, because now he's going to explain the results of the redemption. Notice the title there, A Glorified Zion.
Yeah.
All right. Should I go and read this? It's up on the screen.
Sure, you can. Yeah.
Let's see. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord. By the way, that's Lord in all caps there. That's Yahweh. And the glory of Yahweh in Hebrew, the glory of Yahweh has risen upon you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and deep darkness the peoples. But Yahweh will rise upon you, and his glory will appear upon you. So Yahweh's glory is going to appear upon the people. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. So the light of Yahweh is going to be upon this place, and people from around the world are going to come because they see the light. Now, Raise your eyes all around and see. They all gather together. They come to you. So notice what this is already going to be about. This is going to name other people from other parts of the world who are coming up to this place because of the light of Yahweh. Muslims, do you have the light of Yahweh? Is that what your book says? They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons will come from afar, and your daughters will be carried on the hip. Then you will see and be radiant, and your heart will thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea will be turned to you. The wealth of the nations will come to you. So people are going to be bringing wealth from other parts of the world. A multitude of camels will cover you, the young camels of Midian and Ephah. All those from Sheba shall come. They're going to be carrying stuff. They will bring gold and frankincense and proclaim good news of the praises of the Lord. All the flocks of Kedar will be gathered to you. The rams of Nebaioth will serve you. They will go up on my altar with acceptance. The altar, huh? Where's the altar? Which altar are they talking about, Muslims? So notice the flocks. So sheep and rams are going to be taken to the altar of sacrifice. Which altar is that talking about? They will go up on my altar with acceptance, and I will glorify my glorious house. Who are these who fly like a cloud and like the doves to their windows? Certainly the coastlands will wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish will come first to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them. For the name, why are they coming? For the name of Yahweh. Do people go to Mecca for the name of Yahweh? I mean, notice it's specifically the name. The name, they're going there for the name Yahweh and for the Holy One of Israel. For the Holy One of Israel, Yahweh, because he has glorified you. Let's go ahead. I'm guessing there's going to be more stuff down here.
Dude. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that that there is nothing in here.
Hang on, go back down. Let me see which verse. Up, hang on. Look for verse 14. The sons of those who afflicted you will come bowing to you, and all those who despised you will bow down at the soles of your feet, and they will call you the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel.
Where is that? What is that about? Is that about Mecca? Is it about the Arabs? What is that about?
Go down to verse 15. Oh my God! You will also, because remember that the previous chapter said you're going to get a redeemer, right? You're going to get a redeemer. Verse 16. And it specifically said he's talking to Jacob.
Yeah.
You will also suck the milk of nations and suck the breast of kings. Then you will know that I, Yahweh, am your savior and your redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. So remember the redeemer? So Yahweh, the redeemer, who is talking to the people of Jacob, the mighty one of Jacob. Look up at verse 14, the Holy One of Israel. It's like he's saying, how can I make it any more clear to anyone with a drop of common sense that I'm talking to the Jews here about Jerusalem? How can he make it any more clear? What language could he use to make it any more clear that he's talking about Jerusalem? And yet your Muslim friend, he keeps bringing up this chapter. Ha ha! This must be Mecca. Ha ha! The only thing that could possibly make sense is that this is Mecca. Ha ha! You've been schooled. You've been refuted. It's Mecca, clearly. This is amazing, man. This is amazing what Dawah does to people. And go to any one of his followers. Read this entire passage to them. Say, what in here? Well, it mentions Kedar. It mentions Kedar as one of the many groups who are going to be bringing their stuff to Jerusalem.
Do you want me to find you something that mentions Kedar?
Just imagine one more point.
Okay.
Because anytime they see any mention of anything at all associated with Arabs, with Kedar, something like, yeah, that's a prophecy. I mean, just imagine if other people did that. When it's naming all these places, Tarshish and so on. Imagine someone said, Tarshish, oh my goodness, that means there's a prophet in Tarshish, right? It's not saying that. It's not saying anything close. It's not talking about a prophet or a house of worship. And it's not talking about anything like that. It's clearly, indisputably talking about Jerusalem, and all these other places are bringing their wealth to Jerusalem because the name of Yahweh, and somehow this becomes the proof text that Islam is true. This is amazing stuff, man. I mean, it's so disturbing that Dawah is so successful at deception and manipulation, manipulating people into becoming these drones who accept anything you say, that even right now, you could take, I don't know how, I'm not familiar with Khalil. I don't know how many fans or followers he has, but however many he has, if it's 100 or 1,000 or 100,000, whatever, you could line all of them up right now, read through this passage with them, point out everything that proves conclusively we're talking about the Jews in Jerusalem here. And he will look at all of that and go, yep, clearly talking about Mecca. It's just amazing stuff, man.
So I want to hear, it's, by the way, it says here, the glory of Lebanon, right? The glory of Lebanon will come to you. Where is Lebanon, David? Is that somewhere near Mecca? Where do you think?
No, that proves that some random religion that has a prophet from Lebanon is confirmed there, and that David went there, and that's where the Valley of Becca is. Because as far as Islamic apologetics is concerned, all you need to do is say it, and it makes it true.
So here's Jerusalem, here is Mecca down here, and here is the region of Lebanon. You know, obviously the Bible is talking about how the people of Lebanon will come down here to Mecca, you know, and sacrifice something on the altar in the name of Yahweh, and this will be in the holy city and, you know, of Zion, you know, and praising God. Totally makes sense, right? Totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. Talking about Israel, I mean, the Bible, the Quran, when it talks about Israel, when it mentions the children of Israel, or when it says Israel or the sons of Israel or whatever it says, it refers to the Jews. It refers to the Jewish people, because that's where the split happens. Israel is that. I mean, how do you read this? You read Yahweh, you read the altar, you read the places mentioned which have nothing to do with Mecca. You read Zion, you read the Holy One of Israel, and you conclude that this is about the Kaaba and Mecca. I mean, how ridiculous could you be, dude?
Yeah, and one of the things he was doing is he was saying it was to celebrate the sacrifice of the firstborn, and so his text didn't say that anywhere, but he kept saying it over and over and over again. Remember?
Yeah, there is no reference to that at all. It's just like the lie that he made about Psalms 84, where he said that it mentions Bethel. There is no such thing as in Psalms 84. And the guy was also arrogantly saying, "You clearly have not studied this. I have studied this. I know what I'm talking about, dude."
Yeah, I mean,
we're seeing that here right now.
Yeah, he read some horrible Islamic apologetics book. Jotted the points down, and clear. I mean, and think, God, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this going, that is so awful, that is so terrible, guys. This is Islamic apologetics. This is how it works.
Let me show you.
It doesn't get better than this. This is just how it is.
Let me show you where in the Psalms people are mentioned that are close to what you would relate to the Arabs and maybe even to Muslims today. Psalms 84. Do you remember Psalms 83? Do you remember Psalms 84 is that guy's absolute proof that the Kaaba is mentioned, because in Psalms 84 there is the Valley of Becca, and there's apparently a temple which is not even mentioned here, and Zion has nothing to do with Jerusalem. This is all about Mecca and the Kaaba, and this is David's longing for the Kaaba and the Mecca. And here, when you go into Psalms 83, which comes just before that, what do we read here? God, do not remain quiet. Do not be silent, and God, do not be still. For behold, your enemies make an uproar, and those who hate you exalted themselves. They make shrewd plans against your people and conspire together against your treasured ones. They have said, come and let's wipe them out as a nation, so that the name of Israel will no longer be remembered. For they have conspired together with one mind. They make a covenant against you, the tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Gebal, Ammon, and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Syria has also joined them. They have become a help of the children of Lot. Deal with them as with Midian, as with Sisera and Jabin at the river of Kishon. Enemies who are trying to destroy Israel, who are trying to make Israel be forgotten forever. And what is this in reference to? It says Ishmaelites. So is the Bible here clearly declaring that those people who are holding this place called Bakka, which apparently is Mecca, which apparently is the Kaaba, are enemies who are bad people, and those people are very, very bad people, and they mobilize and gather against Israel. But for some strange reason, just one chapter later, just one psalm later, that place is also praised as a beautiful place that David misses.
And yet just can't give anything remotely resembling one clear word indicating that. I mean, it's like all the clear statements are negative, they're insults. And so you have to go to a place. Well, we don't know what Valley of Becca specifically refers to. Let's say it's Mecca, and we'll ignore everything else. This is amazing, man.
I mean, this feels so stupid. I don't even know. Okay, so there are a few things that I quickly want to get into before we leave you. We've been talking for so long. This is it. I mean, I didn't even get through the first 10 minutes of this conversation because it's so ridiculous.
One major issue here is that this is mentioned in the Psalms. It's a popular argumentation that is brought up. I already addressed it before in different talks. The issue here is the Valley of Becca. It says in that same book. It mentions it in context with people going on their way to Zion, which is Jerusalem, which is a place in Jerusalem, at the center of Jerusalem.
That's not what Zion is.
Zion, according to the historical Jewish tradition, is the center of where God's representation on earth is. It could be the tabernacle. It could be the room. And in the end, it was at the center of Jerusalem. Yeah.
I will admit, I think this was a complete mistake on my part, because that's not really historically how it worked. I completely gave him a thing here, gave him power here by making a mistake, because how that actually came into how that actually was established is that Zion comes from Mount Zion, which is directly there in Jerusalem. It's right there, and that Zion becomes the place, the house of God. That Zion is where the tent for God and the tabernacle is established, where the covenant, where the Ark of the Covenant is brought, and where the temple is eventually built. Which is why Zion refers to that place in that center. Unfortunately, I kind of made a compromise here because of my lack of control over this issue here, and gave him some power and to further his lies in this. But yeah, here we have it.
It could be the Kaaba. If it can be more than one thing, the Kaaba can be included in that.
So you mentioned that it could be the issue is you brought up one thing, which is that outside of Jerusalem there is no such place. That is false. According to the Torah, Abraham built more than 4 temples on his path throughout the Middle East, throughout these places.
Including Mecca.
No, we have no record of him going ever down to Mecca. There is no such thing.
Okay, no problem.
Becca is also mentioned within the. Okay, just one moment. Becca is also mentioned within the Bible as a place that is has always known to be referring to a place surrounding Jerusalem. Now, if that one Valley of Becca refers to Mecca, and Jews had that book with them all the time, and this was so praised and sung. The Psalms are not a joke. I mean, the Jews have been singing that forever. Then why did nobody ever know about Mecca? Why did nobody go down?
They did. That's why that's why rabbis have converted to Islam, including the Samuel. Well, you don't know who these people I'm talking about, including the Samuel, including even Abdullah ibn Salam, some of the prophets, and many.
Who? I still have no idea what he's talking.
He just cited Abdullah. That was during the time of Muhammad. That was the Jew who came to Muhammad and said, if you're a true prophet, then there are 3 questions. What's the first meal in paradise going to be? What's the first sign of the end times going to be? And why does a child sometimes resemble its father and sometimes resemble its maternal uncle? And Muhammad said, fish liver, a certain lobe of fish liver, a fire that separates the east from the west, and a child sometimes resembles its father and sometimes its mother, depending on who has the first orgasm that excretes the semen, because women have semen too. In other words, two of the claims were completely unfalsifiable. There's no way to verify. There's no way to verify the first meal of paradise and so on. And the one answer that Muhammad gave that you could actually test is completely wrong. And what's interesting about And why this story may actually be true. The answer that Muhammad gives is disturbingly similar to a passage in the Talmud, meaning that, and it's wrong. It's biologically, it's false, but that means that he stole it, right? He stole it. And that's why Abdullah, oh my goodness, he knows the Talmud. I have to convert. So notice you can't just say, well, Abdullah converted. This must mean that the Islamic story is true. No, we need to see Abdullah's reasons for converting and see if he was stupid for accepting this. Abdullah,
what does it have to do with the topic?
Yeah. Abdullah made a very serious mistake. He accepted, guys, if you don't know anything about biology, one, women don't have semen. And two, it doesn't matter who, since women don't have semen, it doesn't matter who has the first excretion of the semen in determining what a child looks like. That is complete idiotic biological nonsense. Might have sounded completely reasonable in 7th century Arabia, might have sounded reasonable to Muhammad, might have sounded reasonable to Abdullah. We know it's false. So you can't just say, well, Abdullah, he was a Jew and he converted, so Islam must be true. His reasons were completely wrong. His reason for converting is actually something that shows that Muhammad's a false prophet and a plagiarist at the same time.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, what he does here is look,
including the Samuel, including even Abdullah ibn Salam, some of the Prophet, and many ones. Just because you don't hear about them, but to Islam.
Why did nobody go?
They did. That's why that's why rabbis have converted to Islam.
He says that's why rabbis have converted to Islam. See, that's why they knew that this refers to Mecca, and that's why rabbis have converted to Islam. Did that guy convert to Islam because of this issue? Is there anything in the scripture? Is there anything in the text? Is there anything in these vague references that references this issue, that references Mecca, that references this Valley of Becca issue?
No, and I mean, even if there is some rabbi, because I don't know what books he's reading or whatever. Even if there is some rabbi who says, yes, I looked at this and I said, wow, Valley of Becca, that sounds like Mecca. Oh my goodness, this must be that would just prove that you're dealing with a pretty stupid, gullible person if he fell for that argument, right? That wouldn't prove that the Islamic claim here is true. It would prove that there are stupid people in the world who sometimes
one very ridiculous thing that Hamza did later on in this conversation. I don't want to get to that now, but Hamza did this very strange objection toward the end. Was like, tell me, Ridwan, if what you're saying is true, then why did rabbis say that the Valley of Becca is Mecca? And I'm like, how many? Who said? What's the percentage among rabbis who said that? And he's like, what does it matter? Why did they say that? They said it because they know. And I mean, the argument here is that apparently there's one guy who, according to Khalil, as Hamza just heard, said that the Valley of Becca might be Mecca, which is why he had a positive thought about Islam or converted to Islam. And that apparently is complete destruction of my entire argument that the Valley of Becca has nothing to do with Mecca.
That's why that's why you got smashed.
This is mind-blowing. This is mind-boggling. I have no idea what to say. And this other guy, I have no idea what he says. He's saying that some rabbi called Samuel converted to Islam. That sounds very, I mean, a Jew called Samuel. Surprise, surprise. I don't know.
Yeah, no, wait, yeah, here, notice, right? Notice. Earlier, these guys are that's an argument from ignorance. So they're trying to act like, hey, we're going to use we're going to apply some principles of valid inference here. And if they're going to apply valid principles of ignorance, what this guy's doing is called an irrelevant appeal to authority, right? It's not like he's appealing. It's not like there's a consensus or something like that. If you had a Jewish rabbi who converted and that person's reasons were bad, you can't just say, well, that rabbi said it. That doesn't make that position correct. It's not good evidence for that position. There are certain times where you'd say there is this great consensus of all experts in a field or something like that, and then you'd want to say, okay, that may count as evidence here. But I mean, out of how many hundreds of thousands of rabbis over this, if you found one or two or something like that who said this, and I have to confess, even if you showed me a rabbi today and he said, yes, I really examined it and I converted, I know two Arab Christian pastors who were offered millions of dollars by wealthy Saudis. And we're told, we want you to proclaim that you've converted to Islam and write a book on how you examined the Bible and the Quran, and you saw that Islam is the truth, and you converted to Islam. And one was offered $2 million. The other was just told, name your price. So since I know that is a thing, that's why when I see someone like what's that guy's name who did the Scientific Miracles book?
We just talked about him.
Yeah, Maurice Bucaille. That's why when Maurice Bucaille comes out with this book and he worked for King Faisal, and I discovered all these scientific miracles, and you read the reasoning, and it's like the stupidest arguments you ever see. And you're thinking there's no way a serious person came up with these arguments. Yeah, that's why you'd have to do better than, well, a rabbi said it. You got to give us the argument, give us the evidence. If the evidence that convinced some random rabbi is what Khalil is saying here, that is the worst evidence I've ever seen for anything.
One of his arguments here toward the end somewhere, I don't know if I want to pull it up, but I'm saying, because he keeps appealing to authority, and I say to him, hey, the vast majority of biblical scholars will never agree to the ridiculous claim that the Valley of Baqa refers to Mecca. And then he says, you can't say that. Give me proof for that. And then I say, is that an absurd claim to make? The vast majority of biblical scholars would never agree that it is Mecca. How is that absurd to say? I mean, it's very, very obvious. And what he then says as a response is, I can cite 30 biblical scholars who don't know what the Valley of Baqa is and what it refers to, but I also know one who will say that it is Mecca, and I know for sure that it is definitely Mecca because of these circumstances. So he does appeal to authority to prove a point, but then he rejects the majority opinion among scholars.
Yeah, which by the way agrees with what you said, right?
Yeah.
You said the vast majority would not agree with this.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I can show you. The vast majority say no one knows what that means. That's right. The word is used one time. No one knows what it means. I mean, no one knows which valley this is talking about, because there are a ton of valleys that you could use to go to Jerusalem. Right.
Yeah. In fact, let me go there, man. It's ridiculous. Seriously. Let me go there. Because they expect me to say where the Valley of Baqa is. And I'm like, hey, I don't know where it is. It's an insignificant place. And they confirm that the vast majority of biblical scholars also don't know. And
it's I would say almost certainly a valley that later came to be known by some other name, right?
Yeah.
Like
I read what's it? Valley of something with P. That's what they mostly think it was. I have a note somewhere about that. Go ahead, talk, David. Where was that?
Man, what's up with your internet, man?
What
is this, amateur hour?
No, it's just YouTube.
Here's your problem. Name a place of pilgrimage called the House of God.
House of God. Right? So he made that up. That up.
Well, he doesn't match the criteria because
notice he's giving all the criteria that he made up.
Yeah, he wants
every single one of his criteria he made up. He reads something, completely misrepresents what it says, draws a ridiculous conclusion, and then uses that as a criteria.
From the beginning to the end, I kept sticking to my opinion that this is referring to Jerusalem and that the Valley of Baqa is probably someplace around Jerusalem, because that is what I see from the text. What he says is, no, it doesn't fit the criteria. The criteria is this and this and this and this. Obviously lies. We have just presented them extensively. And because I cannot give him something that agrees with his criteria, he then concludes that I'm ignorant and that I'm a liar and that Islam has schooled me and us.
You've been schooled.
I mean, how dumb could this be? Outside of Jerusalem, it says they pass through the Valley of Baqa while they're going to Jerusalem. Look, do they pass through Mecca to go to Jerusalem?
Listen to this. Listen to this. David is a king. That's his king.
David is a king. So we are 44 minutes here. I'm still sticking to the idea that this is referring to Jerusalem, but the Valley of Baqa is around Jerusalem, and they're still trying to convince me that I did not name a place outside of Jerusalem, which is why I lost this discussion. I mean, what do you think I felt like during these 50 minutes? But wait a minute. There was one point here that I was wanting to. What do scholars say? Was it this?
I am. I think you're just copying out of these things.
No.
Khalil, just because you respond to something, just because you make a refutation, a response, that doesn't mean you have destroyed and the person in front of you is illogical and this and that. I mean, the vast majority of biblical scholars will never agree with the idea that Mecca is Mecca. They will never agree with the idea that the Quran is down there. They will never agree with the idea
every single scholar agrees Quran is there. Every single scholar.
They will never.
Every bull lie. I mean, absolute lie right there. He said every. Did you hear what he just said?
Yeah.
Every single scholar agrees that Quran is Mecca.
Lie.
He just said it. Every single scholar. That's complete, ridiculous, idiotic, deceptive, lying nonsense made to deceive morons.
Yeah. Do you want me to? I think I made some.
There are disputes about where Quran is, but to say everyone agrees that's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous lie by a liar.
What you have in the accounts is that the desert of Paran was a place that they would go to, retreat, or that a place where Ishmael went with his, where Ishmael was brought, and his mother went from there to Egypt quickly to get him a wife, as far as I remember the narrative, right?
Yeah.
So what you have to imagine here is that the desert of Paran is apparently Mecca, is apparently down there in Mecca, and he goes there for some reason all through the world. He goes down to Mecca when he could just go to surrounding places, and from Mecca, his mother goes all the way back up to the north, 1,000 miles, and goes then to Egypt to get him a wife, and then goes all the way back down again with that wife.
And think about it. Hagar was an Egyptian. She's called Hagar the Egyptian. So if she had to run away, I mean, she had to flee, where would she go? She'd probably go in the direction of Egypt, right?
Yeah.
And then where she goes in that direction to Paran, and then it says she got Ishmael a wife who was Egyptian. It sounds like the Egyptians sounds like she's heading in the direction of the Egyptians, and that she's going to the Egyptians to get a wife. Doesn't sound like she ran down to Mecca. Why would she go down to Mecca? You got your Bible handy again?
I do. Yeah, what do you want?
Go to 1 Kings. Go to 1 Kings 11.
Can I not search like this here? What is this?
Not 1 Kings 1.
11. I know. I was trying to look for 11 here. Okay.
Go down to. Scroll down. Let's see. Scroll down more. Go down to 17, 18. Hang on. Okay. So one of the guys who's running. Do you still have your map somewhere? Check this out. For Joab, look at verse 16. For Joab and all Israel stayed there for 6 months until he had eliminated every male in Edom, that Hadad fled to Egypt, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, while Hadad was a young boy. They set out from Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt to Pharaoh. So notice, they're fleeing Edom, which is to the southern end there, the southern end of Israel, and he's going to Egypt. Now, where's Egypt? So he's going from there to there. Right? So, where's Mecca again? Okay, so the Muslim claim is that Mecca is Paran, right? So just to recap, go back up there. Where's Hadad fleeing? Where Hadad's fleeing there, right? And where's he going? Where's he want to go? No. Where's he want to go?
Wait.
He wants to go to Egypt.
He wants to go. Oh yeah. He
wants to go to Egypt.
Okay.
All right. Now, according to Khalil, where must Hadad have gone on his what did his route look like to get to Egypt?
I'm here.
Let me march 1,000 miles into the desert, and then march 1,000 miles back for no reason at all. That's what these guys are arguing. And guess what? According to Khalil, 100% of scholars in the world will say, yes, that is exactly what Hadad did. That's exactly what he did. He went down to Mecca only to get over to Egypt. Guys, this is insane. This is pure insanity here. 100%, every last one.
This is insanity. This is insanity. All right. So let's do this. Where was I? Where am I here? I just want to do it because it's so much fun right now.
Yeah.
All right. So let's switch over here. Let's take this. All right. So let's have this here. So according to this Bible, according to Khalil with his logic, now let's have this. So he is here, right? David, can we go through this together?
Yeah.
So let's take the guy. He's right here, right here. And what does he want to do now?
He wants to go to Egypt.
So he wants to go to Egypt.
He's trying to get to Egypt as quickly as possible.
Yeah, he wants to go to Egypt like this.
Yeah, that's the way stupid people would go.
Yeah, no one would do that. No one
would go that. They didn't know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and that so you should take the roads that are closest to.
Yeah. Someone even told him, "Hey, just go this way." He thought, "Are you stupid? That doesn't."
Yeah, you idiot. Dumb. Don't you know that Mecca is Paran?
Are you stupid? Why would I go like this when I could go like this? Why? Yeah, there you have it. Now I'm there. Are you dumb? This is the right way. Why would I go like this here? Why would I do that? I'm not stupid. I'll go like this. I'll go like this. Look at this. Everyone.
That's Islamic apology. We're laughing, but again, ladies and gentlemen, this is standard Islamic apologetics, claiming that Paran is Mecca and so on.
Boy.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the way.
That's the way to go.
This is the way Khalil would go.
That's how this guy must be fun. This guy must be fun to take a trip with. So notice if he's like, hey, I'm in New Jersey. I want to go to New York. I know. Let me drive to California first, and then I'll come back and go to New York.
Oh boy!
And guys, notice it would be what I just said. If you were in New Jersey, which in case you from a different place you don't know, New Jersey's right beside New York, and the dividing line between New Jersey and New York City is there's a river there, right? So you just cross a bridge. The idea that you would, in order to get from New Jersey to New York City, you would drive across, 3,000 miles across the United States of America and then drive back. It would be way, way easier to do that than to walk to Mecca. Or even to ride a camel or something.
Yeah.
So go down there by walking or by camel and then go all the way 1,000 miles back over to Egypt. It would be way easier to take my California route. Right. Yeah. So that's what Khalil is saying. He's saying the stupidest route you could imagine driving today, multiply it by 100, and that's how dumb these guys were in the ancient world.
Yeah. Judas Priest here said, I don't think AP will be invited to the next Hamza's Last Dance show. I hope they invite me back. I hope they let me back in there. I have a lot more stuff to say. I don't know. It's just
you know to be cool. Because I understand it's their it's their show and so on.
Yeah.
Just the situation where you say, okay, give me a certain number of minutes to raise an objection.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's 3 minutes or 5 minutes, let me raise my objection, explain my objection, and you guys go ahead and answer it. We don't need to argue. We don't need to argue. And so people will have, as long as I get to flesh out my objection a little bit, and you guys respond to it, great. People have heard both sides of the story. Something like that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I would like to ask
quotations
questions.
about scholars. Brian, you bring quotations. Scholars. You want to do that?
No. The vast majority of biblical scholars will never. Is this a lie? The vast majority of biblical scholars will never.
Yes, it's a lie.
Agree that Mecca is.
You keep making claims. making claims about Quran.
This is very obvious.
So, no, it's not.
I keep saying these things.
Okay, sure. Here.
One
example.
Look, you keep saying these things. You keep saying that the vast majority of scholars would never say that Becca is Mecca.
Yeah, you keep saying something that is obviously and indisputably true.
You keep saying aggressive green,
and it's true even according to what Khalil has said. He said, "Hey, I could give you all these scholars to say they don't know what Becca is. Well, if they don't know what Becca is, they obviously don't believe it's Mecca, right?"
Well, you're so wishy-washy. Can you be kind of definitive?
Are you guys trying to say that it is absurd to claim that the vast majority of scholars do not agree that Becca is Mecca?
So
can you answer that question? Can you answer that question?
I'm going to answer you right now. Look.
Can you answer that question, please?
I'm trying to. I've studied this subject matter. Now, with all respect, you really haven't. You've probably heard some things.
Can you please respond to the question that I just asked?
Just be patient. Be patient.
You're not answering the question. Please answer the question that I've asked.
I'm trying. Give me a chance. Relax. It's okay. We're having a conversation.
Sure. All he has to say is no.
Look, I've studied subject matter, and I can tell you right now, and I'm making this statement right now, that's unanimously all scholars agree about one thing. They don't know what Becca is.
No, that's false. Excuse me, that is false. Yeah. Even if most scholars agree on that, this is not unanimous all scholars. There are different interpretations on what it is. Even this is false. I'm sorry.
But notice, what he just said agrees with you. You're saying scholars would not say that, the vast majority of scholars would not say it's Mecca. And he's saying it's virtually unanimous. No one knows what it is. Okay, well then they obviously wouldn't say it was Mecca. So why are you disagreeing with me?
It is so hard for him to just agree with me for once.
Yeah, it's hard
for him to just say, yes, you're right about that. Okay.
It's like anything you say, I have to disagree with you, even if we're saying the exact same thing. I still have to disagree with you because of who you are.
Look, he said something very strange.
Wait, you don't know.
I want to go back to the other thing, but
we know exactly where Becca is.
Okay, was it my question?
I can give you listen to me. I can give you a quotation right now of 30.
Was that my question? Because that's not what I asserted. What you objected to, because what I brought up was that the vast majority of scholars will never agree that Becca is in Mecca. That is not the conclusion that they come to. Is that false? Is that an absurd claim to make? Do you agree that the opposite is true?
So there are rabbis that agree. First of all, I don't know if you know this. The Samaritan.
That was not my question. My question was: is it absurd to claim that the vast majority of biblical scholars will?
No. That's a fallacious argument.
That's what the argument was.
Look at Asadullah there.
That's a fallacious argument.
Oh, that's a fallacious argument.
Look at Asadullah.
That's what the argument was.
I think he's praying.
You're saying the opposite of what I'm saying in another way.
What does that mean? Look at my face.
Look, I'm telling you right now that they don't.
What is this guy talking about? You're just saying the opposite of what I'm saying in a different way. Why don't you just answer the question? What is fallacious about it? I mean, these guys are really a different world. I have no idea. But yeah, he basically confirms that the vast majority, or unanimously, he even took it further than I did, and he said unanimously they don't know where it is. But hey, I know. No scholar knows where it is, but you know what? I know where it is. It's Mecca. That's what he does here. I know that the valley of Bacha is Mecca.
And a rabbi, his name is Samuel. All right, or a book about this. So there are plenty of evidence out there. Just because you don't have access to them doesn't mean it's not there. Now I'm talking about a sanctuary, a place called House of God, in a place called Becca that is not in Jerusalem.
False. We have just proven that it's false. It doesn't say anything like that anywhere.
Where David had fled.
It doesn't say anywhere that David fled to a place called Valley of Becca with a temple. It doesn't say that anywhere.
It doesn't even mention David. It doesn't mention him.
And when it mentions David fleeing somewhere,
it mentions people going through a valley to get to Zion.
Yeah.
And it mentions David in a completely disconnected fashion going to the Philistines.
What he's doing here, he's just taking completely different, disconnected things that have nothing to do with each other from the Bible, putting them together to build himself a narrative that will prove Islam true.
And guys, do you know why he's doing that as his method? Because he has to.
Yeah.
The only other alternative is like Asadullah's. You could be Asadullah's approach. You could just say, we don't expect anyone to pay attention to it. or it could be Hamza's approach. I don't believe the Bible anyway, so who cares whether it's mentioned in there? Notice the result is all the same. There is no actual evidence. So if you want to pretend that there's evidence, you have to rely on deception.
Yeah.
From Shoal, from Sawat. Now, what is this place that we're asking about? What is your evidence that this Becca that you're talking about around Jerusalem had a sanctuary? What is this sanctuary called Beit El?
So, let me read the part. I mean, Psalms 84:5. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage.
Right.
As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it with pools.
Yeah, basically what we
It
said.
sound like a place of
called Baca, the valley of cry. This is all false because it's translated as.
Look at it.
It's giving you an indication of a place called Baca, right? You know, falsely, a lot of people try to translate it as the valley of weeping, the valley of cry. This is all false because
why is it false?
There's a noun. It says ha Baca. There's a definite article ha, which is like ton or ho in Greek, and then Baca. So it's a noun of a place that has a sanctuary. It's been there forever, and there is a well there.
Say valley of weeping. Valley of weeping. Does he think that's an adjective there? Does he think that's a verb there? What does he think is going on there? Valley of weeping is, if it's valley of weeping, in that sense, the weeping is the noun in this context. I mean, what is he talking about? If it is a different translation, we also have a lot of scholarship on this matter, where Baka is supposed to mean trees or a specific kind of trees. That already fulfills the issue here. And biblical scholars everywhere, so many biblical scholars have concluded that this is weeping or tree. Who the hell are you to say, well, this is of course false? I mean,
hold on. Could you go back to Psalm 84?
Yep.
Do you still have that?
I do.
I just have the ESV here. I just want to see what this one says. Let's look at this. How lovely are your dwelling places, Lord of armies. My soul longed and even yearned for the courtyards of the Lord. My heart and my flesh sing for joy to the living God. My King and my God, blessed are those. Blessed are those. So he's singing here, and I'd be interested in looking up a couple different translations to see which one's the literal one. Verse 4 in the ESV says, blessed are those who dwell in your house, ever singing your praise.
Oh.
So
that wouldn't make any sense within the, yeah.
Are people forever inside the Kaaba singing, are people inside the Kaaba singing praises? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see what you mean. This is the New American Standard.
I'll check out.
We can do that.
I'll switch to the NIV here. Let me see.
Blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you.
Praising you. Let's see. Okay, so that's NIV. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if the praising there refers to a kind of singing. Because I don't know. It starts off with him singing.
In King James Version, it says, blessed are they that dwell in thy house, they will be still praising you. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we have pretty much made our point today, David.
Yeah. If you have the Bible there, could you go to, just because we said we would, could you go to Genesis 22?
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that. Genesis 22, you said?
Yeah.
Genesis 22. You see how I'm easily handling Bible Gateway? That's because I'm very familiar with this, because I'm a secret Christian. And
yeah, I don't know if we lost. What was his name? I put a note down here. Chad Norman said Genesis 22:5-8, Kaaba and the Bible. Everyone go read it. So 22:5-8. Let's look at 5-8. Then Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey, and I and the boy will go over there. We will worship and return to you. And Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it on his son Isaac. And he took his hand in the fire and the knife. So the two of them walked together. Isaac spoke to his father Abraham and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. So the two of them walk together. So this is supposedly the building of the Kaaba. Now notice, they just walk away with some wood they're carrying, and somehow they build this big cube, this big stone cubical shrine, and then set all of the worship in motion. Notice, if you just go back to the beginning there. Now it came about. Oh yeah, you were going to look up Moriah. Look at this. Now it came about. It says he's on the mountains of Moriah. No, you don't need to. You don't need to go anywhere.
Okay.
The Bible will show where that is.
Oh, will it?
Yeah. So notice at the beginning here. Now it came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. Then he said, take now your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. So he's going to the mountains of Moriah. Now go to 1 Chronicles.
Yes, sir. First Chronicles. Where's First Chronicles?
No, Second Chronicles 3. Scroll down there. You see it right there.
Okay, 3.
Second Chronicles 3.
Okay.
Where did Solomon build? Then Solomon began to build the house of the Lord in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David. So Solomon built the temple on Mount Moriah. So what's Moriah talking about? It's obviously talking about Mecca. And when it says that Abraham brought, he had Isaac carry some wood, it clearly meant enough blocks to build the Kaaba, and then they built the Kaaba in Mecca. And guys, do you see this? Because that Muslim was there saying it with complete confidence. It's so clear. Just read it. All you have to do is read it, and you see this is them building the Kaaba. My goodness, guys, it's Abraham in the land of Israel.
No, you're just being
with some wood. And guys, if you'd actually read that passage where Abraham's willing to sacrifice his son, and God tells him, don't do it. And it says that God will himself provide a sacrifice. And then years later, Jesus comes along and John the Baptist says, behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. If you actually tried to understand any of this, you wouldn't walk away believing in Islam. There's amazing messages here, and you miss them all because you're going, how can I distort this to find something to confirm my religion that's falling apart? Come on, guys.
And then he went from.
If you actually believe that God has delivered revelations in this world, you should be a bit more respectful with the text.
And then he went back from Mecca to Beersheba, which is, of course,
it's Medina,
which is, of course, over here. What is wrong with Google Maps, man? Yeah, it's somewhere in Israel. Of course, he went back from Mecca all the way to Israel because he just wanted to, and all that. I actually made a thing to this. He also talked. I briefly want to mention this. I did this 2 years ago. I said, I made this old video in which I can't speak proper English, and in which I was basically talking about how Abraham was building the altars, because according to the Bible, he built those 4 altars. Mm-hmm. And the Muslim claim is also that he built one of them in Mecca. In fact, that's what they said during their conversation as well. And
he is believed to have built the altar of praise in Shechem, which is here. It's even mentioned that the Canaanites were there, who did live in this region. The second altar is the altar of prayer, built in Bethel, which is located to the north of
Okay. I have to add one thing here. Speaking of Bethel, Khalil keeps mentioning through the conversation that the Bible speaks of a place called Bethel, although he puts that into Psalms 84, where it doesn't belong and where it never appears. He thinks that Bethel is in there in that text, and that Bethel sounds similar to house of God, Beit El in Arabic, and that this may only refer to the Kaaba in Mecca. That's what he says. But where is Bethel in the Bible? Where is Bethel historically known to be? Is there anything here where we can search for words on this page? Do you know a specific reference where that was, David? Did I make a note for that? I don't know. I didn't really plan for that. I didn't think about. Oh, I think I even made a note here. Genesis. Wait a minute. No, I'm just talking to myself. Genesis 12. Genesis 12. Now the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless to those who bless you, and I will bless those who bless you. And the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So Abraham went away as the Lord had spoken. Abraham took his wife Sarai. Where is Bethel mentioned here? There's somewhere Bethel. Okay, here it is. Abraham passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem, which is in Israel. The land of Canaan, the land of Shechem, Oak of Moreh. Now the Canaanites were in the land at that time, so they were living there, and it's known that they were living there around Israel. And the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, to your descendants I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. So that's where he built an altar. Then he proceeded from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. So where is he still? He's still up there in this area. According to the Bible, according to the biblical narrative, which these guys, not me, these Muslim apologists, these guys try to use as evidence that the Kaaba does indeed appear in the Bible. According to the biblical narrative, this is approximately where Abraham builds the altars. This is where he is the entire time. This is where that place named Bethel is. This is where the desert of Paran is thought to be.
Hey, AP. Could you trace the route when Abraham and his followers decided to walk out with Isaac for the sacrifice?
You want me to do that?
No, you don't need to draw it out. Just do it with your mouse there.
Okay, I'll do it.
So,
yeah.
So God says go to Mount Moriah.
Okay.
It's right over there. But what's the route you're going to take, Abraham?
I'll go down here.
I'll build the Kaaba while I'm here, and then and back.
Yeah, and then he goes to Bethel, and then he's like, is this Bethel? I think this must be Bethel. I'll just build it here, but I'll go up there. This is Bethel. And then he builds it somewhere else, and he goes, this is the Islamic mind. I'm sorry, this is Muslim apologetics.
And they love it, man. Their followers absolutely love it. The more they lie, the more they love it.
Yeah. Biblical narratives, biblical occurrences, biblical narratives of Abraham put him here. If you look at all the locations mentioned, all the geographical qualities and regions mentioned, this is where Abraham spends his journey. This is where Abraham spends his journey, in this big circle, and mostly in this little circle here. But what does Islam do? And what do Muslim apologists do? They say, no, not here. It all took place right here. Right here, and we have no clue why all the Jewish stuff took place here, and why the Jews they established their history based on Abrahamic history over here. That is all false. That's all made by Islamophobic Jews. It all actually took place right down here. That is how stupid it is.
And if all the evidence we have tells us that this had nothing to do with Mecca, well, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Oh boy, you got it.
Bingo.
Okay, I think we made our point, David. I think we have very much destroyed it today. We have destroyed the Kaaba.
Although we should make shorter videos on individual points.
Yeah.
Like something just on Psalm 84, just on Isaiah 60, things like that. So that quick references for people.
I actually started looking up some scholars, since I thought, hey, since these guys are so arrogantly trying to appeal to authority and bring out like some guy who apparently converted to Islam in Muhammad's time, I thought, hey, why not just look for a comprehensive list of Christian and Jewish scholars of the text, and to go to them and ask them if it is true that the Valley of Baqa is most likely Mecca, and
they're all going to agree. They're all going to agree.
So I'll probably work on that. But I'm also working on different videos on this whole topic here, and also on how the Kaaba itself entirely disproves Islam. So that will all come. But today, guys, I mean seriously, Tell me if I missed something. Tell me if you want to add something. Tell me if I did something terribly wrong here. Tell me if we did something terribly bad here, something very wrong here. But hey, especially Muslim viewers who think that these apologists over there at Hamza's Den actually schooled us and made a point and actually proved Islam to be true. Even if you do think that, even if you think they came out on top, even if you think they are much better and much smarter and much more honest and all that, no matter what it is that you think, I don't even care. Look at what happened. Look at what they said. Look at the realities that we have presented today, and tell yourself one more time that they are right.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, and just an unrelated summary. Muhammad Osama here just said, Mary was married at 9 and gave birth to your God in 12. So why you kept mentioning Aisha? Notice I wasn't following the discussion about Aisha, but when we say Aisha was 6 or 7 when she was married and had sex with Muhammad at 9, that's because that's what we read over and over again in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and Sunan Abu Dawud and so on. And what do you respond with? Mary was married at 9. According to what? Name your source, chapter and verse.
Yeah.
You can't. There is none. So we come at you with evidence, and you come at us with lies. And that's the reason I normally wouldn't read that at the end, but it's just a perfect encapsulation of everything we know about how dawah works. It's people come at you with evidence about problems, and you respond with lies. That's what all of your dawah guys do. Yeah. Show me one that doesn't.
This is the same thing with what just happened between me and Sajid Lippim. I came out and I put everything down, all the sources. I opened them up and said, hey, this and this and this, here and here and here. He tried to respond to them, ignored half of what I said. I doubled down and said, hey, here and here and here and here. This completely disproves your ridiculous argument that the Gospels that we have today actually agree with the Islamic belief. And what did he do as a result? He said, guys, don't listen to this guy who calls himself Apostate Prophet. He's a devil. Everybody block him. On YouTube, if he appears, click on not interested. Don't recommend this channel. And please stay away from these people because they will raise doubts in your head.
and then when the lie doesn't work, then they make up more lies. Muhammad Osama replied, man, I asked a priest, spelled P-R-E-A-S-T, and he told me that. Go ask your scholars. Well, I know our scholars. I've never met one who would say that Mary was 9 when she got married because there's no source on it.
Yeah,
you can't. This is what I find amazing, AP. It's, hey, they're coming at us with sources. Let me make something up because for some reason we just have no problem lying, and so they lie. And then when you say, hey, show me where you're getting that, oh, go ask your scholars. What scholars are going to say that? What scholars are going? You're telling me our scholars are going to make stuff up like you just did? Come on, dude.
Yeah. Of course they will.
Welcome to Islam, man.
Of course they will. Welcome to this is Islam. This is Islam. We present Islam. All right, David. I think that's pretty much it.
Yep, we are gone.
Yeah, I'm very tired. My legs hurt. Oh, I have a lot of super chats here. Thanks everybody for the super chats. Maybe I may arrange something for Monday to go live and to interact with that as well. I think right now David would be very angry with me if I went into reading super chats.
I would have to go to my full psychopathic state.
All right. Well, I think this very much broke it down. Thanks everybody. I wish to always join the Hamza's Den arena one more time to discuss things with them. I'm sure that they will have no problem with us laying everything out here as it is. I'm sure they will accept me again onto their stream to talk about matters with them. And yeah, thank you everybody. And thank you, David, for joining me today and doing this great work that we have done. Is there anything else that you want to say, David?
Just stay away from Islam.
How can you say that? It's Islamophobic. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And no, seriously, thanks, everybody. Stay away from the Valley of Bacha and stay away from Islam.